Rexulti without first talking to your healthcare provider. The most common side effects of Rexulti include weight gain, sleepiness, dizziness, common cold symptoms, and restlessness or feeling like you need to move, akathisia. These are not all the possible side effects of Rexulti. For more information, ask your healthcare provider or pharmacist. You are encouraged to report side effects of Rexulti, brexpiprazole. Please contact Otsuka America Pharmaceutical Inc. at 1-800-438-9927 or FDA at 1-800-FDA-1088, www.fda.gov/medwatch. Please read full prescribing information, including boxed warning and medication guide, at Rexulti.com.
Welcome back to the Anchor Solix channel. Have you ever wondered why two power stations with the exact same battery capacity can have completely different run times? Today, we're going to get a little technical. We're going to break down exactly how the Anchor Solix S series achieves such high discharge efficiency and longer runtime. It all comes down to one piece of proprietary technology: smart variable frequency, an industry-first innovation developed under Anchor Solix's OptiSafe platform. Before we dive into the technology, let's clear up two common misconceptions about runtime that might change the way you think about backup power. Now, when choosing a power station, most people think that the math is simple. More capacity equals longer runtime. A 2 kilowatt-hour battery should obviously last longer.
I have a topical thumbnail.
Oh,
And now.
we're just having a sleepy little start to stream.
Sleepy. I'm literally drinking my second cup of espresso today.
Well,
So
I'm sleepy today.
Should I? Okay, I feel like I need to complement this and bring a third vibe to the table. Should I grab a cocktail?
Ooh, go for it.
Okay,
all
let's do this.
right.
Looks like no one has joined yet. Oh, one person.
One person, our loyalist fan.
We're gonna knock.
It's
One-
probably me because I'm watching the stream in my browser.
Oh, God.
Snarkcore. Hello.
Oh yeah, Snarkcore reacted with the emojis.
Nice.
Awesome. Oh, it says
We're
there's
gonna-
3 people on my screen.
Well, I'm one of
We're gonna knock 3 random people's socks off.
them. Richard, you're
Yeah.
one and I'm one.
Oh, seriously? Why do you have the stream up in a separate tab? You can already see it with your
Read chat.
with your control page. To read chat,
Yeah.
you have to set up a dock or keep it in your, or just like pop out the chat.
Yeah, I'll pop out chat. That's it.
Yeah, pop out chat, copy the link, and then go to custom browser docs or custom docs in OBS. And then you can just keep your OBS as your only screen or your main screen.
I don't mind being a little cluttered. I may have like 5 screens open on my one monitor.
Okay. Oh yeah, plus you can switch monitors with the whatever works for you.
Pretty easy on Mac.
Mm. I hope I wasn't supposed
I
to
like,
shake
I like
this.
how you have me. I like how you have me sitting far away from the rest of you.
Oh yeah, that wait. I changed this one. I have to edit. I changed this one so that you're not so far away because Imran's not here.
Mhm.
Wait, talk a little bit.
Oh yeah, you have to move that layer to the back too.
Yeah.
So that when SureShot spreads his arms, he doesn't go underneath. He goes over top of the thing.
Yeah, you gotta understand Photoshop to run the stream.
Not necessarily. Oh yeah, I like the setup where we had the video like widened, so you see less of the. You don't see the tabs, and you don't see the information in the
Ooh.
bottom, like the description. And then we have the avatar slightly overlaying on top of the video because they don't cover up anything important.
Here, let's try that.
Blow it up more so that we don't see the tabs in the top.
Oh.
Sorry, I might be behind.
Oh, here, I'll show my.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Or
cool.
you can go even more to block out the top bar as well, because it's not necessary. More, and more.
Okay, now how do I get this to move to top? There we go. Okay.
There we go.
Oh,
And then
I
you
am,
can reorder the.
yeah, let me
there
make
you
it so
go.
I'm not showing the scroll bar on this. Oh, bar on this. There we go. That should be good.
Sorry, I tasted alcohol.
Sunday's still live, so it's kind of to be expected that we have a sleepy start to stream.
Oh, he is?
In terms of, yeah, he's gonna raid in.
Okay. I thought he was gonna finish soon when I started him saw him on the Jordan Peterson. He said he was like, "I'm gonna just cover this guy real quick, and then we can move on." And I was like, "Okay, well,
He's
I
now
know
watching a
everything
vet.
about Jordan Peterson. I haven't seen Jordan Peterson, and I don't watch him, and I'm better than people who watch Jordan Peterson."
He's currently watching
You're not missing anything.
a bad empanada video.
Mm.
Oh yeah, the bad empanada response to
Yeah,
an
this is
arc.
he's gonna be going for probably.
Mhm.
Tanky argues with a fake anarchist. That's great.
Mhm.
Okay. Well,
I don't watch
let's start with
Anarch, and I
this.
don't watch Bad Empanada, and I'm better than people who watch them, so it's fine. Okay, sorry.
Let's see. How does the OBS look after I swap videos? It should be fine.
Mhm.
Okay. Some brains are built for philosophy. Is yours? Very loaded question.
Oh, this video's only 7 minutes long. This is the perfect amount of time to cover a question like this.
I think it takes me about 5 minutes. I think I've got 5 minutes to work out the kind of conversation I'm going to have and the kind of person I'm talking to. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Johnny. So, how do you know Lisa? Oh, you work together, do you? Great. Cool. No. We went to school together. And so it goes. We each dance in a socially prescribed script known as small talk, and then we come up to a crossroads. We have to decide how we're going to go on, what questions we are going to ask each other. Shall I ask you about truth, about morality, about the soul? Or are you going to ask me about pets?
Is this guy literally going to say, if you can't get past small talk in a conversation with somebody, that means they're not built for philosophy?
Who goes up to someone, says hi, and then says like, "Let's talk about the soul."
You want to talk about the mysteries of the universe?
Somebody who
Like,
doesn't understand
the
social
soul is-
scripts.
Yeah, the soul is already. Plus, I find the soul a very boring.
Maybe you
question.
just found somebody who's socially awkward, or maybe they're autistic, or maybe, I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
the person just doesn't like you and doesn't want to discuss anything with you beyond small talk.
Mhm.
Normally, when people
There's so
say,
many
like,
reasons.
they want to skip small talk, they mean like talking about the weather or like some like random pleasantries, right? It's not like some people seem to mean when they're saying like I don't like small talk. They mean something like I don't like hearing like people's thoughts and experiences. And I find that very odd. Like what about asking about
Mhm.
Yeah.
someone's
Yeah.
like
Well, I think there's like two senses that is said by people commonly. I think the first one is like the one that you're kind of getting to, which is like people who are really poorly socialized who think that um, it's actually better communication to move on straight to like, I don't know, whatever their nerd fascination is, and everybody that they talk to has to be like have the same fascination that they have or whatever.
if someone like
And then
this is like trying to jump straight to talking about the soul, I'm going to assume from that they have like a deep uncomfortability with like talking about themselves and their feelings and asking others about themselves.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
another thing that we haven't talked about yet is that small talk is people trying to find something that they share, and they do this with a stranger, not knowing that because they know that they are more likely to have a shared opinion on the weather or on
The games.
whatever like situation they're in currently, than they are about um like some deep philosophical question. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't think about that stuff. Um,
Well,
and
the other
that's
Ooh,
why
the
in
question of
some
this.
social situations it's considered small talk to discuss politics, because everybody shares not necessarily opinions on politics, but everybody's in like a shared situation.
So
I've heard this about France, for example.
interesting development. It looks like Sunday is gonna have Forever Dirt on
Yeah, who's Forever Dirt?
they're the one who made the pedantic malice of President Sunday video.
Oh my goodness! Can we
Oh,
please
no.
watch it?
And I kind of want to. Do we want to react to the stream? It'd be fun.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay.
It's gonna be funny. Oh.
Forever Dirt has like a. Oh, I thought that was Whatchamma name him.
Let's see.
His profile says full blown fascist cutie.
Yeah. I mean,
Follow me on skull emoji. What does that
Wow.
mean?
Wow.
I mean, we saw.
That, he's got that Totenkopf Riz.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's sounding a little bit clearer now.
Let's let it go at a lower volume.
Okay, I'm just moving it closer to my face. Is that okay?
Sounds a little better, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I am just fine. Jobless. I quit my job not long ago, so I'm doing great.
Not for YouTube, I hope.
What?
Not for YouTube, I hope.
Well, that's always an ambition, long-term goal.
My God, Sunday.
No.
How do I get rid
Not
of
yet.
pop out?
Do you want to introduce
even
yourself very
monetized
quickly
yet.
before we press
Restore
on to the
chat.
audience? Name, pronouns, etc. What you're about.
I want to have pop out.
Yes,
chat.
I'm Forever Dirt. I have a YouTube channel called Forever Dirt and another channel called Forever Dirt History.
What's
where I
his
make history videos
profile
that
picture?
may
Who is
or
that?
May not have certain inaccuracies, but I'm working on that.
I don't know.
And yeah, I made a video about President Sunday not too long ago where I criticized him. And so
Yeah, that was
he invited me.
you were the pedantic malice guy, right? There were two people. I
Yes.
recognize your name. Okay.
Yeah, the other guy was neither left nor right or something like that.
Beyond left and right, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and he criticized you for reviewing that one guy, the liberal fucking hegemony dude.
I actually can't even remember, to be honest with you. It's a blur.
Mearsheimer, I think.
Oh yeah, it was the Mearsheimer one. It's coming back to me.
Yeah,
President
and then
Sunday
you talked
React
about
Industrial
how
Complex.
he was wrong about John Locke and the whole concept of inalienable rights.
I mean, he
thought that
was wrong
interesting
about
that,
John
you
Locke.
were
Yep.
presenting, because I saw that
Yeah, that was
video before I
interesting
saw
to go
your
over.
response, and I thought he was presenting
huge
a
Locke
fairly
was fun.
sensible argument, but then you just totally push back, like no,
Locke
no,
is one of the easier
I was
ones,
right,
isn't
and
he?
you demonstrated it.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I thought
that was my
interesting,
main
'cause
issue with Locke.
I
is
don't
that he's
really know much
boring.
about the subtleties of the concept.
Yeah, I read him in high
of
school.
inalienable versus alienable rights.
Not even in philosophy.
Well, there's not a lot of subtlety. It's literally just
Yeah.
can you alienate them or not?
I
But
read,
when you're talking
I
about
think the
liberalism,
first treatise on
and that whole
government, something
trajectory,
like that.
the basis of political legitimacy in
Mhm.
liberalism is precisely that there is a particular way in which rights are alienated that makes rule valid, right? So
Yeah, and that's interesting. Yeah. It's the idea being that to create a society, you need to give away certain
is
freedoms,
interesting.
right?
I mean, I don't like it for a number of reasons. The first is that essentially it takes the model of English contract law to kind of reverse engineer how you've actually consented to a situation of exploitation that you were never actually able to consent to. It's basically a big perversity thesis. It's one of those things. I had a professor who put it really well, in terms of people's engagement with this stuff. It's you'll love Hobbes, then you'll hate Hobbes, then you'll learn to love him, then you'll learn to hate him again. And that, I think, has been my trajectory, where it's you learn to appreciate the functional value of the mechanism he presents, and then you
perhaps we should go over the conversation another time. I don't know how much we can really, because it's difficult to pause when it's live. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I do think
I'm
it's
Yeah,
open
we're getting into
to going over it later, but
theory shit. I was hoping that they would, I don't know, start flinging shit at each other immediately.
Yeah. I guess we can keep.
I think
an eye
this
on
guy.
that.
I think this guy actually. I think he actually likes Sunday a lot, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if he, tries to be a bit of a suck up a little bit and pick his brain actually, instead of like trying to be outright belligerent.
Mhm.
But who knows how it'll actually go? We'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting that I noticed. I agree with you. I noticed that he is aware of the second Sunday hit piece, which he would only be aware of if he watched Sunday or if he like found it independently, which would be even weirder.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure he watches Sunday because he left a comment on one of Sunday's recent videos. The one on one where Sunday was reacting to Bosch. He left a comment on that one.
And his disagreement with Sunday wasn't that like he was wrong. It was more about his attitude, right?
It was very nebulous. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
kind of like preoccupation with the style of somebody's presentation and not like the content of it kind of belies already that somebody has kind of like a parasocial engagement with somebody going on. So
You think
Yeah.
so? But there are people that are like,
Brooks has people
Sunday
like
may
this
be
all the
right, but
time.
he's an asshole.
Yeah, that's
And
like,
I don't think
they're at a very, they only understand Sunday at a very surface level.
yeah, like Brooks has people like that in the QC too, who like just like concern troll to no end about the way that he communicates and how problematic it is and everything. And yeah,
I mean,
Mm.
Sunday is an asshole sometimes. I'll give them that. Doesn't mean that he doesn't make good
Yeah, he'll
points.
acknowledge it. Whenever he has people like complain about his tone, he doesn't say, "Oh, well, I'll try to improve myself there." He says, "But they're not criticizing the content of my argument."
Mhm.
He's aware of it, and he's not willing to change it.
Shall we go back to this video? I think maybe it would be fun to review the
Um,
discussion after if Sunday raids in.
Mhm.
We can.
yeah, we can do that.
Oh yeah.
I did want to add something before we continue with this guy. The other thing about small talk is that not only is it safe, as Richard was describing, but there's also a way in which the small talk is not about the literal content of the small talk. What you're doing is you're feeling out the other person. You're sensing like, okay, is this person like apprehensive? Are they in a good mood? Um, do they need me to encourage them? Do they even want to talk at all? You're sizing somebody up without engaging in something that's either more confrontational or something that they might not connect with. So you start with the really easy stuff, like how was your day? Like that's the most simple way
Mm-hmm.
to go about things, and you find your way into something that, instead of just projecting whatever your current fascination is onto somebody without just willy-nilly, without even asking or no, it's almost like busting down somebody's door to their house or something and be like, I'm here. It's like, I didn't invite you. So
Right.
and
People
so
want
it's like,
the deep conversations because those are the ones that you remember, right? They're
yeah,
the
but
ones
you need
that
to
are the
get
most
there
intellectually
first.
about. Exactly, yeah. Like
Right.
you need to put in the work first.
Well,
People
you
want
want to
the
establish
results
rapport.
without all the labor that goes into this. This people are the same when it comes to learning skills or appearing or being an intellectual or like skipping foreplay, whatever. Like people are like this, they're impatient. But ultimately they're wrong about it.
Yeah, foreplay is important.
Shall I ask you about truth, about morality, about the soul? Or are you going to ask me about pets, about holidays, and what I watch on Netflix?
I also think that it's funny to contrast those two as if there's like some like cosmic importance to these first set of things, but not to the second set of things, as if the second set of things is not extremely relevant to people's lives, the decisions they're making, the ways that they're engaging with the world. Like you can interrogate these things philosophically. The idea that there's this like uh dumb people talk about people, smart people talk about ideas sort of thing. It's just silly. Like the two are connected. Not
I can already tell that this guy is like one of those people who's just like really overly preoccupied with sounding smart.
that's a good thumbnail face.
Yeah.
I'm stealing.
Editor?
All right, let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance.
On the record as saying that I think that we should have more deep and meaningful conversations, because I think these kind of conversations are important to who we are and to our relationships. But I feel like I need to add a caveat to that, because not everybody likes deep conversations. This doesn't mean that their conversations are vacuous or boring or irrelevant. It's just that some people prefer the familiar. They prefer to talk about holidays, about pets, about family, and so on. So why is it that some people do have this burning, unquenchable...
Or maybe people have a way to have deep conversations about these, like, quote-unquote, familiar or, like, day-to-day things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean...
Like, there's ways of thinking about, like, the normal that are intelligent. I've had these types of conversations with Imran, I think. Like, he'll say something insightful about something that I didn't even give a second thought to, and I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
And it's still small talk, but it's intelligent.
I mean, I bring up Nietzsche and other philosophers all the time when people are talking about how to make certain decisions, whether, how they are reflecting on their thoughts on certain things. Like, there's ways to bridge the gap that make it immediately relevant to people's lives without having to be like, what is your opinion on the soul? Which I don't even
if you
find to be an interesting
if you can't talk intelligently about small talk, that probably means that you're not going to be very intelligent on the big stuff either.
Well, yeah, I mean, it
Yeah, I like
reinforces this idea that you're sort of like this philosopher in an ivory tower, right? You aren't concerned with the everyday affairs of.
Yeah,
that's the affect trying to affect.
Mm-hmm. Reminds me of the Grossman essay.
Ooh, which one?
About somatophobia.
Oh yeah, great essay.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason Sunday keeps bringing it up.
Yeah, because maybe we should go over that one sometime on stream.
Yeah, I hope if it's not too long, that would be good, I think, and very valuable to the audience.
Desire to unravel the mysteries of the universe. Some people need to write these vast and unseen essays about my philosophy, whereas other people cringe and they shy away from anything like what is the meaning of life. Now, I hate to say it, but this video will not answer the age-old question of nature and nurture. Everything in life is a complicated swirl of our genes and environment, and philosophy is no different. But it is interesting to ask the question why it is that some people need to know. Why do some people like to have philosophical conversations and some people cringe away? Well, today we're going to answer those questions. Today we're going to look at the brain of a philosopher. And to do that, I want to look at the godfather of philosophical cool, Albert Camus. Camus.
Interesting
What
choice.
the fuck is philosophical cool?
He's gonna brain scan Albert Camus.
This is a really
I don't even think that he's doing that, because Camus is disconnected from the sciences, right?
Yeah. Camus.
Camus was not unlocking the mysteries in the universe.
Quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Camus is more literary than a lot of what we would think of as like philosophers that are taking on these like questions that he's. I mean, Camus is directly confronting things like, the meaning of life or whatever. But these are more literary questions than philosophical most times, anyway. Like,
yeah.
Once you've accepted that there's not inherent meaning. It becomes more of a literary and an effective thing of like, how do we build things that are valuable to us, right?
Hmm.
Which is not necessarily some purely like detached logical whatever type of thing.
Yeah, that's very much the theme of the myth of Sisyphus, right?
Mhm.
Not very much the stranger and the fall or the plague, but he does have pretty philosophically heavy works, but he never argues those points explicitly. It's more like he constructs a story that proves a point.
Right.
And whether or not the story proves a point the story aligns with reality is a separate question.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think it's a little that's why I was saying like it's an interesting choice, especially if you're trying to find like an archetypical philosopher. So
He
not
loves him
Mhm.
because Camus is in his mind is cool guy.
I guess so. By the way,
Philosopher.
sure
Camus
shot.
is
That's
a cool
literally it.
guy. Have you seen his his photos?
Oh yeah.
They have so much aura.
Well, yeah, he's French. Yeah.
No, he has more aura than the average French man.
He's Algerian, sure shot.
Well,
Come
actually,
on.
yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Come
I was
on.
about to correct myself.
His nationality, yeah, not ethnicity.
Well, there's something about like being a Francophile, I guess is what I was getting at. That kind of adds that kind of aura to people a lot of time. But go ahead.
Part of it is just high quality fabrics.
Yeah,
I hope I
that's it.
have the Francophile aura as a French speaker. That would be cool.
Oui, oui.
Who is generally
Baguette croissant.
considered to be one of the first and most famous absurdists in philosophical history. He's certainly the best read and most
Calling him one of the first is odd wording considering he's the guy who coined the term,
What?
but I'll let it pass.
Mm-hmm.
loved, and especially on social media. Now, there are many ways that you can define absurdism, and there are quite a few kinds of absurdism. But generally speaking, absurdism is the philosophy that tries to hold one terrible irony. We are meaning-seeking creatures in a meaningless world. We try to find explanations for things. We crave explanations for things, and yet the universe as a whole has no explanation to offer.
It's Johnny
life
Thompson.
It's
ends
so funny that he cites himself.
Wait, that's him?
Yeah.
Oh my god!
That's him. I noticed that it says mini philosophy.
I was like, wait, what? Why is he citing some random guy's Substack? And then like, oh my god!
Yeah, see, it says mini philosophy podcast in the top of the description.
Oh my
It's the
god!
same thing.
That's hilarious.
Yes, Allogistics, he is quoting himself. Also, I agree.
Oh
The
my
secret
God.
is to be a French Algerian like Camus and Derrida. Yeah, they both have so much aura.
Oh,
Oh
I
my
didn't know Derrida
God.
was Algerian.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
let's-
not a good way to legitimate yourself, buddy.
Yeah.
Uh,
All of my knowledge comes from me from the top of the
I
dome.
would have.
I don't hate this definition of absurdism though. Like it is about sort of this.
It's
I don't
the
know if it
instigation.
necessarily
It's the instigating thing for, I guess, for absurdism, but like so the same. There's the same instigation for a lot of philosophy.
nihilism.
All of philosophy is trying to find meaning. I mean, this is
okay.
Also, absurdism.
Here from the Wikipedia, absurdism is the philosophical theory that the universe is irrational and meaningless, and that trying to find meaning leads people into conflict with the seemingly meaningless world. It doesn't say that we're meaning-seeking creatures.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the reasons it doesn't is because specifically Sartre is working from Nietzsche and the death of God, where the death of God isn't some like there's no like neutral meaning-seeking creatures definition. The death of God is like a specific genealogical event in like social history, whereby the institutions that once
provided meaning.
yeah provided a coherent meaning structure are now in question, right? Are now no longer grounding. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a like banal definition, I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Its achievements are washed away in only a few generations. Life itself seems like a pointless flash.
Their achievements are washed away in a few generations. Depends on what you're looking for, I guess, right? Like every
Whose
action.
achievements? Sorry.
I think people in general.
Washed away in only a to offer. A human life ends and all of its achievements are washed.
A human life, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends on what he means here by achievements. It sounds like he's saying, like people talking about their accomplishment, which is not really the same thing as their not having had an impact on the world, for example. Like the impact that people have is going to be incorporated into like the rest of existence. There's not a separation, right?
Or even if you just have children. There you go.
Well, you don't even need to have children. It's just the impact that you have on the people and the world around you
Yeah.
is going to make some sort of difference.
Well, I'm just saying that like it's literally just
Measurable.
like flip a switch. Like
Yeah.
like randomly have sex with somebody, randomly have children, have literally do nothing else in your life. Boom, you have something that's gonna last beyond your death.
Well,
Mortality
Or if
isn't
you, like, write your
necessarily the
name.
question.
You graffiti your name in like under a bridge, right? You don't even
Mhm.
need to go that far.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have a kid, it doesn't matter if the child dies. It matters if the child dies before you do. So you have to nurture the child. Make sure it doesn't die before you do.
Away in only a few generations. Life itself seems like a pointless flash in the pan. And so absurdism is about the tension between seeking meaning and no meaning available. This is an objective principle. But the fact is that not everybody can
Objective
relate
principle?
to absurdism. Not
Yeah, what does he mean by that?
What?
Yeah, the objective absurdism.
Huh. This has nothing to do with objects.
It's foolish to try to find fixed meaning in life. By the way, there's this objective absurd principle that governs life. I don't know.
everybody feels this way.
Yeah, except
Not-
what I anticipate that he might argue is that some people aren't meaning seekers. So they don't get into these philosophical questions and they don't get into the
He's gonna.
I don't know. Or he might say that they're like afraid of the tension that absurdism creates, so they resist it.
Yeah.
That would be like
Yeah,
a more
they're
classical
just-
Nietzschean point of like sort of existential scaredness leading to nihilism, where it's like an inability to or leading to coping mechanisms, right? So something like the falling back on a religious doctrine you don't even believe in, right?
I don't think this guy is gonna get anywhere that complicated. I think he's literally just gonna do the people. These people are NPCs thing.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't like, because these people could still be very intelligent.
Everybody
And just
seeks
not-
Let's see
meaning
where it goes.
in the way that Camus diagnoses in his works, especially the myth of Sisyphus. I know plenty of people who never experienced the kind of existential anguish that you find in Soren Kierkegaard, Leo Tolstoy, and yes, Albert Camus. They just kind of get on with their lives. And so I wonder, are these people less intelligent and less deep than anybody else? I don't think so. In fact, absolutely not. They're just built
That's such
differently
a
to
dumb
how I am
question.
built.
You only think that these people aren't intelligent if you define intelligence as anguish, or like you define it in a particularly
Well,
leading
he's
way.
saying that they're not less intelligent.
But he's saying that he asked himself this, and he concluded no.
Okay, I see.
But to even like
It's
merely ask
considered-
yourself that
That's fair. That's
means
fair.
he's looking down on them.
His
Yeah.
considered
And he's
opinion.
gonna-
To explore this, I want to look at one of Camus' novels, The Outsider, or sometimes called The Stranger, and in there we meet an absurdist anti-hero called Meursault. Now, Meursault is somebody who doesn't play by the rules, and we, the reader, and the characters in the book view him with a kind of repulsion but also respect. On the one hand, we see this authentic and honest person as admirable in some way, and we long
Respect.
to emulate them. We want to see more.
He's not like rebelling. It's more that like he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
Like he does.
isn't the point, or like isn't one of the main character traits that he has this incredible detachment?
Yeah, he's like he has an ennui about him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's
He's not like being heroically defiant or anything like that. He literally it just glosses over him because he doesn't care.
Yeah, he tries to be heroically defiant in the final chapters,
Right.
but
When
I
he
don't know if that's
when he
what
finds
Johnny
a
is
reason.
saying.
Right, when he finally finds a reason to care, but as we're introduced to him, he's just like this shiftless person. Why would we admire him for his shiftlessness?
we
Mhm.
respect the Stranger's protagonist, the most 15-year-old emo chick ever. Thank you. I don't know how to say your name. Firas.
Who is this for us?
Yeah, Faraz.
Without the B is all I know.
Okay.
Of that
Yeah.
in the world. But on the other hand, there is something antisocial about somebody who never cares what other people think. Because we are, as Kierkegaard said,
Wait, he was just talking about a little bit ago about people who are not interested in hearing about people today, and
But he's admiring this guy who doesn't get
no.
paradox of a social being who craves individuality. We like being around other people, but we like solitude. For example, when Meursault glibly states that he'll marry his girlfriend if she's keen on it, we're inclined to appreciate that honesty. And yet when he fails to show any emotion at all at his mother's funeral, and he
Oh yeah, you're supposed to
No!
admire the honesty.
No, it's the same emotion. The
Yeah,
fact that
it's
he
the
doesn't
same-
cry, doesn't cry at his mother's funeral, and
He's
the fact that he's
indifferent.
ambivalent to being. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like, wow, this is an important life event, and you're indifferent.
Yeah, Nietzsche would say that he's like basically probably like deeply hurt and in a state of like cowardice towards his own life. Right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's very possible that that's the sort of childhood he had if he were a person, not a character.
Yeah. The idea that he's completely indifferent to his own is like, I don't know if pitiable is quite the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially since I brought up Nietzsche, but it's not admirable. It's
No.
if anything,
Yeah.
it's
Not even by
closer to, like,
Camus' lights.
like Nietzsche would consider it kind of like detestable.
Yeah.
Camus doesn't make this connection, but I feel like there's a link in between capitalism and the way that we live through like an economy outside of ourselves and our own interests.
Mm.
And in the way that Rousseau is indifferent. Like the people that relate to him are people that are life denying,
Mhm.
that become attached to like that economy outside of themselves, either in the modern day through like social media and like marketing themselves and creating a life online outside of their quote unquote real life. Oftentimes it is like literally a real life because the life that they've created online is through a persona and through like a commodified version of themselves rather than like the authentic version.
Damn, if only some German guy had a word for this.
begins the novel by forgetting which day she died on, we see him as robotic or even perhaps broken. Now there is some debate.
Wait, so the death of the mother is robotic and broken, but being completely indifferent to where your relationship is going your partner is admirable.
Admirable.
I
Yeah,
don't
he
even.
says he
I don't
admires
even.
the honesty, which
I don't
is
even.
actually the interpretation that I sort of had as a
Really?
high schooler. Like I related to him and his honesty and sort of like indifference. But I mean, now I can recognize that that's not really a healthy state necessarily.
Right.
Among Camus readers
By the way,
about whether
the word I was thinking of was alienation. Just in case anyone.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was wondering.
we should see Merceau as neurodivergent in some way, possibly with a kind of Asperger's, or
No, I
Asperger's.
accept the neurodivergent interpretation, but maybe that's just because I don't know. I relate to him and I'm autistic.
Yeah.
But there's
Typically,
always an inherent problem in trying to assign these things to fictional characters. Although I don't think that means that we should stop the practice altogether.
yeah. I mean, I was reveling at specifically him claiming Asperger's, considering like
Oh yeah.
that's a wild pull, considering that's a completely outdated
Yeah, I don't trust people that
diagnosis.
say Asperger's instead of
That's like
autism.
Elon Musk shit,
Exactly.
generally. Like,
And Elon Musk,
Definitely peculiar.
I don't
yeah.
know. I feel bad for him, and that comes up, like he's a victim of something when it comes to that.
hello,
Yeah,
Godspeed.
like I think if you're autistic and you say Asperger's, you're a victim, even though he's like a horrible guy.
simply as holding a different philosophical outlook on life. I do not know enough about psychology to
The
armchair
character does
diagnose
not
any
have a philosophical outlook. He has no outlook.
Yeah, he's
That's the whole
completely
thing
Yeah,
about
that's
the
the whole
character.
point.
he's completely alienated.
Oh
and
my
detached.
god.
He has no opinion about his own life or anything about it. That's yeah.
This is not Holden
He's
Caulfield.
ruled by his sentence, but by his senses.
character, but the debate does raise an interesting question about the biological factors that incline a person towards philosophy or not.
What? What is the bridge here?
How? There's no biology in The Stranger.
What?
We're scanning Merceau's brain.
Oh, Godspeed says this guy is speaking at my uni's philosophy society in a couple months. How's the
What?
video going?
That's crazy.
That's a jump scare. Holy shit.
It's a combination of banal, which I hold as a D result, and not great.
This guy, how do you get quote unquote biological inclination
Psychology
from
Let's
reading
back
The
it up
Stranger?
here. What?
to armchair diagnose any literary character, but the debate does raise an interesting question about the biological factors that incline a person towards philosophy or not. So here's what we know so far.
I mean,
Is he gonna say that autistic people aren't inclined towards philosophy?
or maybe he's saying autistic people are inclined to philosophy. I don't know. Like, there's
Oh
certainly.
yeah, because he said that Merceau has an alternative
Yeah.
philosophy, rather than saying that he doesn't have a philosophy, which is the correct interpretation.
So there is like a tie between non-normativeness in a very, very general sense, things that fall outside the norm, and philosophy. I mean, you can look at Kant is like a classic example.
Yeah, Kant.
Yeah, but even
the most autistic, maybe the most autistic philosopher who's ever lived.
Yeah, but
maybe
even
besides Wittgenstein.
Yeah, look at and look at Marx. Marx, he's like famous for having like the most absurd work and sleep schedules of all time and self-medicating using alcohol, etc.
Yeah, and being like a messy Twitter bitch back in the mid 1800s. Yeah.
Nietzsche famously had extreme
Wait, guys, pause. Should we pull Forever Dirt in?
What?
No, we don't know what the conversation.
No, we don't know.
was.
We don't know how that
Okay,
conversation
he left.
went.
Never mind. No, that exactly. Because I wanted to ask him,
Oh, okay.
but he's gone
That could have
already.
been good content. I think you had a good
Yeah.
idea. That's okay. Yeah, so just a very strangely, especially to go to biology as opposed to like people who are put by society outside of the norm. Like,
Or even just like a general conversation about being disaffected, like, because that's the condition of the character.
right. And I don't.
Heidi ho!
Sunday!
Hello, Sunday. How was the
Ow, my
conversation?
ear!
Sunday!
I'm gonna turn you down.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
Never do that again. Guys, don't do that. Never do that in my presence. Okay.
Sunday!
We're gonna
Are
have
we
a
live?
button for it.
Yes, we are live.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, we've
good.
been
So-
live. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
What's up,
You're
Sunday?
rating it?
Some brains are built for philosophy. Why did I not see this?
Oh, dude, you have no idea.
It's so good.
Okay, I'll link it to you, Dave, to go over another time.
I'll watch on the stream. It's okay. I'm with you guys right now,
Okay.
so I'll just go with it
So-
with you.
So far, he said very little. And he said like gosh. He was
So he immediately goes into the example of Albert Camus.
yeah. So his example for the archetypical.
Wait, before he goes
philosopher-
into Camus, he's talking about
Some
shoot.
people don't like to do small talk.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so he's
Okay.
like,
So we're on our anti-autism action phase apparently.
yes, exactly.
Oh,
Okay.
Imran is here.
Oh, Imran's here. Where? Oh, in chat.
In operations.
What?
Yeah. He's in our GSL operations group chat.
Okay. Well, anyway, he just asked. Here, I'm gonna go back.
Neurologically,
I'm gonna go back like 15 seconds.
I do
Okay.
not know enough about psychology to armchair
Can
diagnose
I
any
just give Sunday a really quick summary though?
Yeah. Okay. Give me an overview. Come on.
Yeah. So he starts out with like, okay, some people like to do small talk, some people don't. Yada yada. Why can't people get to deeper topics right away or whatever, right? And so then he implies, some people are just built for philosophy differently. And then he goes into the example of Albert Camus, and he goes right to The Stranger. If you've read The Stranger, it's pretty like apparent that the main character's problem is that he literally does not give a fuck. He is completely indifferent. He doesn't have an oppositional stake in anything. He just doesn't care, right?
He's withdrawn from the world.
Until literally like the very end, right? So he goes ahead and says, no, actually, this character admirably has his own alternative value system that's opposed to the society around him, and there's kind of a refreshing honesty to it, and yada yada. And then he goes straight to, well, this kind of illustrates something interesting about the debate, which is that there might be some people who are just biologically predisposed to philosophy.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. Let's do it.
character. But the debate does raise an interesting question about the
Wait, one
biological
sec.
factors that incline a person towards philosophy.
Hey, Imran.
Hang on.
Yeah.
No.
Let's
Hang
let
on.
Imran say hi.
Hello, Imran.
Oh.
Good morning. No, I'm joking. How's everybody?
Doing well.
We're doing good.
Yo, so I've seen this video.
Oh,
You
so
have?
I pre-watched. Yeah, I did it by accident. Richard, what you need to understand is that our algos are like pretty much the
Okay,
same.
I know they're deeply intertwined. Yeah, I saw a video. The whatchamacallit, the panel, the debate panel with the three fascists and the liberal, and one of them talks about Marx, hosted by J-Reg, that August was showing me.
Oh, no.
Brooks showed him. Brooks showed August, who showed me.
It
Is
was
what I mean to say. And then that video appears in my feed.
Wretched
So
is
I
the-
wonder, like, if all of the videos that we're recommending Sunday are just videos that Sunday also gets on his own recommended.
So in
Maybe,
other
I don't
words,
know.
what you just told us was like pure distilled masochism in video form.
Yeah.
A little bit. I will say that Richard's regular algorithm is like my slop YouTube algorithm because I have a slop YouTube and I
Yes.
have like a good YouTube. And so Richard's always in the slop. I visit the slop occasionally. Richard's like Eurydice stuck in the slop.
You were born in it, molded by it.
Snorkeling in the sewer.
Like Orpheus and Eurydice?
Basically. Yeah. You have no
Yeah.
Orpheus to
Why is
save
she
you
stuck
though.
in the slop? Stuck in the underworld?
Yeah,
Okay,
basically.
that makes sense. I got
More
it.
or less. Mm-hmm.
Interesting question about the biological factors that incline a person towards philosophy or not. So here's what we know so far. Neurologically, we can identify a few areas that tend to underpin archetypally philosophical minds.
Hey, pause
Oh
for a
my
second.
God.
Okay.
Oh.
We've talked about this before. Just so people are aware, just so you know, you may be confused sometimes, as I have been in the past, about how we don't understand, for example, the physiological bases of most neurological and mental conditions, but we somehow know what parts of the brain are specifically associated, what brain activities are associated with the capacity for extremely sophisticated cultural functions like language and philosophy.
Yep.
And the reason for this is because they made it the fuck up. Because actually, our the way we scan brain activity is completely indirect, and it does not actually scan, to be clear,
Thoughts.
anything that you would associate with mental activity or thoughts. It tracks oxygen through blood.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah.
We don't know what we know is generally we know what the physiological structure of the brain looks like through these scans. We know on report what things tend to light up as active in these ways that I mentioned at a significant degree of latency. We know, like, hey, what were you thinking about? Oh, well, a few little while later we saw a little blip there, or a little while before we saw a little blip there. Okay. When you look at pictures of brain scans that show brains lighting up, you need to understand that you are looking at an average. It is a computer generated image that is an average between many different brains, none of which look like that.
There is no the brain. There is only brains.
Exactly. Sort of like how everyone's face is different, all your toes are different. All your bits everywhere look completely different. Your brains are all very different. That's not the one part of your body that's just magically identical across members of your species. They're all different.
Mhm.
And just FYI,
Like
if you ever go for a
computer generated images
Yes.
of what people of different nationalities look like.
This is why, by the way, if you ever go for a CAT scan or something and you ask if they found something, they're never going to give you the honest answer, because the truth is, yes, they did. Because you're all full of tumors and you're all weird. That's how it works.
By the way, Sunday, I got some really terrible news for you.
Oh, fuck. Not again.
Somebody in chat mentioned that this guy is going to be speaking at their university.
Which university?
I don't know. Somebody go check.
Godspeed Camus University.
I don't know if they're public.
Well, I've got some good news for you. Okay, at the very least, he's British, so he's obviously correct.
True.
We need a British person on this team. Okay, this is a disadvantage.
The kicker on all of this is, even if this shitty post hoc analysis even had merit to it, it still wouldn't be a causal explanation, because people have neuroplasticity. Their brains adapt to the kinds of activities that they engage in. The types of interests and things, labor that they cultivate, also produces changes in the brain. And so
You can suffer widespread brain damage, and through correct therapy, not just, and this is, by the way, this is always highly provisional and conditioned on the particular person, but there are cases where you can not only regain your baseline functioning, but get more functioning because suddenly you're paying attention to it. Sometimes this happens for people. Very not super common. I don't recommend it as a mental growth strategy, but it's a thing that happens. Can I just say
I would
on
probably
that
try
topic?
it, by the way.
Can I
What's
just
up?
say, and I apologize for this in advance, okay? But I want to direct you over his left shoulder.
Oh no.
And I want to just point out that this uncultured baboon has laid a book underneath his plant that is directly channeling moisture to its surface.
Well, maybe his brain was just biologically not inclined for good bookkeeping Sunday.
Maybe.
Well, that
Anyways,
he's got a
Halloween.
candle on top of it too.
He's got
Got
a
a
white
white
one on
candle.
the other one.
Didn't you just come from a stream about not presuming the motivations and brain states of animals? Okay, we can't keep thinking about how a baboon might think. We don't think like baboons.
No, we can hang on. We can think about how a baboon might think. We just can't anthropomorphize it, okay?
Oh, you're right.
So whatever else can be said about this, listen, I did not claim that this person's behavior is human. Press on.
Know that the hippocampus is linked to curiosity. We can point to the dorsolateral
Hello?
prefrontal cortex.
Hi?
Linked to is doing a lot of work there. As we were just mentioning, these things are not some like one-way biological causality.
By the way,
Linked to
very
could mean
quickly,
a bajillion different things.
August, you're a little bit quieter than everybody else. Just a heads up.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I can do about that.
Let me make sure it's not on my end, because I might have lowered your volume talking to you on here once. No, I
Okay.
didn't. Okay, I'm going to boost your volume a little bit.
Okay. I
Yeah,
will speak
August, I had to
clearly.
boost you as well.
God damn it. Okay. Am I able to boost my audio capture?
Yes, called gain.
Yo, Richard, I love how you
Yeah,
were like
if people are-
overwhelmingly offended. That was great.
And Imran is blasting.
When was
and
I
lower you a little bit.
overwhelmingly offended?
Oh, just now when you were like, "Hello."
Oh, yeah.
Where can I turn up my gain in OBS? Because I already have it up on my computer. at
Advanced
max.
audio settings.
Well, I would also say you can also add a filter to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but let's figure that out another time. Nobody has complained about the relative volumes so far, so
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
yeah. Just grab Brooks and he'll sort it out for you.
I want to make a distant comment, which is that I think this guy is suffering a very common condition, which is trying to figure out why it is you're the only person who gives a fuck about what you give a fuck about, which is like a very common thing if you're in philosophy. It's a very common thing because, you know, we all have this moment of like, in a sense, primeval separation where we find ourselves on the other side of the rest of, say, for example, our family, who are interested in like whatever they're interested in, but are never really interested in that particular weird thing that we're fixated on. There's a funny moment in a documentary about Jacques Derrida where they're talking to his brother and his mother, and they're both like, we don't understand where that came from. Like this weird penchant for like philosophizing and thinking about weird problems. They're just like regular, what they call pied noirs, which is like a certain kind of Algerian French person. But here comes Derrida out of nowhere, like some extraterrestrial, wanting to think about the meaning of being and how it's been interpreted through time. And so it's a very alienating thing. I remember a long time ago, we were in some kind of long VC in the cathedral, and Sunday was like, I need you all to remember something very crucially, which is that you're all weird, meaning that you spend your time, in a sense, with the tribulations of abstract problems that most people find either entirely impractical or something worse. Maybe let's say entirely unproductive in a larger sense. And this is more or less one of the fundamental things you have to embrace in order to do this kind of stuff. You just have to, whatever, instead of trying to find an explanation to justify it, just take it how it is, you know? There's a good quote from the mid part of one of the big Platonic discourses, Theaetetus. And Theaetetus is basically like this really what do you call it when someone's really good at something for their age? Precocious, like intellect. You know, he's good at like mathematics and geometry and certain kinds of mathematics like geometry and this whole thing.
Prodigy, you mean?
And, no. He's precocious, which you know, prodigy would be precocious, of course. But so there's a midpoint in this dialogue, which is about like what it means to know things and having knowledge and this whole thing, where Socrates tells Theaetetus, you see these people over here, and he's pointing at some random Athenians. You see these people over here, they think what is real is only that which they can hold in their hand. And so they don't investigate the deeper problems of being, like, say, for example, what something is in itself, absent its immediate appearance in the way that we do. And already you see here a delineation that's happening where Socrates and Theaetetus are marking themselves out as aberrations from the regular Athenian socius. This is very crucial.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
they're
at the kind of
challenging common
beachhead.
notions.
Absolutely, absolutely. This challenging of common notions. I mean, and so here's where I think that if you're someone who is interested in these problems, just run with it. Just be like, yeah, I'm like this weird idiot who likes thinking about being. Spin it in your hand like a dreidel, like some weird, unfashionable object.
Cortex to see how we can make logical, goal-directed decisions and exert cognitive control over thoughts and actions. We can see theory of mind regions like the medial prefrontal cortex light up when we debate or discuss an idea. And when it comes to the call a spade nature of Merceau, who rarely does what is expected of him, neuroscientists can point to the amygdala and caudate responses associated with choosing independence over conformity in the face of social pressure. As with any physiology, these brain elements can be more or less efficient or developed, partially due to genetic factors.
Pause for a
Some
sec.
people are simply born more curious.
Does he have sources for any of these, like, broad, useless associations?
No, because these broad, useless associations are, in fact, very useful because they allow an audience to just package in a little story about how all of this works without actually examining whether any of the terms are real or not. This is like why Jordan Peterson sells books to people who have no interest in anthropology or politics or whatever, because it tells a little story that's very easy to ingest and solves every problem because it literally just copies them.
Gives you a nice little shorthand, even though you're completely disinterested.
More controlled in their reasoning and more inclined to debate. So what about absurdism? Are there neurological elements in those who stay up late and ask existential questions of a silent, unresponsive universe? Well, possibly. Some people act more from the brain's habit system than others. They just kind of get on with it rather than pausing to deliberate or second guess things. There are also parts of the brain that allow some people to be more comfortable with just not knowing. When presented with a mystery like the absurd or a pointless universe, some people are happy to shrug and...
Just pause real quick. Earlier on, when he was starting out, he referred for the first time towards people who just seem to live life and they don't really seem to agonize with anything. What about like just the fact that not everybody necessarily has events in their life that causes them to have an agonistic relationship with meaning?
Yeah, I would say I fall very.
Like there's no account of like the historicity of the world acting upon somebody's life and the profound effects that it have on somebody.
I think,
and how that varies from person to person. Like,
yeah, I think Not So Oedipus actually had a great comment here. Unresponsive universe. So the way that he's building the meaning of this statement is unresponsive existentially, right? It's not answering a question that he thinks he has the right to, or someone else that is searching for the meaning of the universe has the right to ask of the universe. Universe is not unresponsive. It's everything is responding all the time to the forces that are interplaying on it. Like,
yeah, and the brain is not in a jar by itself. It's being acted upon constantly through your body.
I would love to. I think actually, I'm a little bit curious what Richard's response to this would be. Can we take a brief digression, August? I'm going to send you a link that's timestamped.
Sure.
Richard, have you ever seen Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Oh God,
I've seen a couple of episodes. Yeah.
Okay, I want to just play this. It should be at I think 66 seconds
funny.
in. It is.
Okay.
all the wolves.
Wait. Are we gonna get copyright struck for this?
No, we'll be fine. You'll be
They
fine.
get at the bone, but most of them are too frightened to come close enough. Their fear is due to high levels of stress hormones in their blood. It's a matter of survival, because coming too close to humans can be fatal. But a few wolves, due to natural variations,
I love
lower
this.
levels of those hormones. This makes them less afraid of humans.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, I guess it's not wrong in a way, but it's just like it's not the true cause
Yeah,
that
it's
they're
always
not
begging the
coming
question.
closer.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
it's
Like, why do they have
interesting.
the fear chemicals?
Well, because it's being presented like this is supposed to be an explanation for a dynamic with a particular in the environment, right? But what's happening here is exactly what this other guy is doing. Look, we have the presence of these two elements. Okay? I'm going to tell you a story about some universalizable principle that always explains this characteristic on one side of the equation. Leaving aside, for example, the fact that the wolf has to recognize the human as a threat to begin with.
Mhm.
It has to recognize it as something that is capable of doing it damage or something strange or whatever. That's just not there. But all of its cognition, all of its
Yeah,
emotional
like there could be
experiences, etc.
multiple different types of problems that prevent the wolf from recognizing the human as a threat that don't have to do with the fear chemicals. Like if
Like
the
it could
wolf
be
is
really
blind
hungry.
or doesn't smell humans, for example.
Like, what if it's just really
Or other,
hungry and in
like,
desperate need
less
of food,
identifiable.
and it's offered food?
Mhm.
Like it, yeah. It
Or
gets
just
to
more-
Yeah,
something
the
Imran
dying
and I
way.
have talked about at some length, which is, I forget which philosopher Imran mentioned in terms of the discussion, but it's the difference, the sort of the representational interplay with like the physicist, where you can talk about like the table and the physical makeup of the table, but you're always working backward from a representational object first. And so you're always working backward from something like identification that there's a lesser fear. So you're never working the other way around. Like, what if this works in the individual with like diagnoses and stuff as well? Like, you can't really exactly just like tell someone that they are not afraid because the chemicals in their brain are reading a different thing than you expect when they feel fear. Like it works the other way, right?
Well done, Russia.
Not only that, but there's a complication of the fact that human beings are not the only animals with complicated drives that often conflict with each other. Animals experience this too.
Right.
They might experience a conflict between, say the fear of being in physical danger versus starving. Like being hungry.
Right.
It's like.
Yeah, I do want to say that the extreme, well, the usual reason I bring up that point about working backwards from immediate representations is that they're usually societally determined. And so by this I mean this is the kind of hidden aspect of any kind of empirical situation. That, for example, so actually maybe I'll capitulate the whole thing. What August is talking about is an example I like to bring up. I kind of stole this from the philosopher Graham Harman and repurposed it. But there's a famous series of lectures given by a physicist named Arthur C. Eddington, called the Gifford Lectures in Scotland. And to give the lectures, he sits down at a table, and he says, so in front of me are basically two tables. The first table is what I'll call something like the conventional or sensible table. It's the table you see, the table I see, the table that I put my hand on, the table that I can point to, etc. And if I say move that table, it's precisely the sensible table I'm talking about. But then he says, but there's something like the real table, which is the table, which is in a sense the substructure, the atomic structure, the molecular structure, et cetera, moving back upwards. And so, of course, the funny thing is, if we were to try to investigate something about this table at a molecular level, or even something at the atomic or subatomic levels, we'd have to understand what that conventional table is. We wouldn't start, if I were to just go say, sequester that table so we can engage in some scientific investigations, you wouldn't go to a chair at the other end of the room. So you begin with the conventional image. And in fact, you would never really circumvent this with any scientific enterprise. And so this is the let's say the Faustian situation you always have. It's that you always have to trade in your knowledge for the fact of it starting from a conventional standpoint. And that's important because conventions change. They're contingent in time. They're arbitrated by societal circumstance.
You're always working backward from the object to be studied.
In its relation to you. Yeah.
Shall we press on?
Turn to their lives, and this may have something to do with the anterior insula and the dorsal anterior cingulate. None of this is to say that you are or you are not born as a philosopher. As I mentioned before, we are a combination of our genes and our environment. The brain adapts and bends to the world it must work with. However, it does mean that much of the human nature that philosophers, including Camus, like to talk about is actually a specific type of person. When I used to meet people who just don't get philosophy or can't understand why others spend their lives debating the most parochial and unanswerable questions, I was baffled. How can you not find this interesting? How can you not love Camus? Well, it might just be that philosophers are built a bit differently to others.
Man, I expected him to have at least one citation in all of this. It's actually funny. He has one citation
at the beginning.
He cites
He cited
himself.
his own Substack.
Hey, listen, he knows that research, okay, better than everybody else.
So it would seem. It's
When he
weird
did
because
that, I
all
really
of the
pressed on at first. I
connections that he
didn't know.
cited between different functions and anatomical regions aren't ones that I learned in class. So they're like these more controversial or more recent developments, if they are developments at all.
Very quickly, Psychedelia 98 wants to know if we're still doing Collins today, are we?
Yeah, sure.
Why not?
A call-in type of channel. It's a communal. It's a
Yeah,
communal event.
it's a community channel.
Community channel.
Imran's real name is actually Colin.
Yeah, so true. So I want to say something real quick about that last section. So one of the big issues, one of the big gripes I had with that video when I first watched it, was that it did something which I really dislike, which is that it subordinated the practice of philosophy, or it would have been much more artful to give almost a kind of philosophical explanation for this philosophical problem. But it tried to subordinate it under kind of quick and dirty socio-biological extrapolations based upon like scant formations of neuroscience. And it's like, well, what are we doing here? I mean, I feel like it would have been so much cooler to try to actually dive into the literature of your own discipline in order to try to answer this question. Maybe that's just a personal thing for me.
No, he just does phrenology. That's all. He can't go any deeper than that.
But what if you have a phrenological type that predisposed you to that?
God damn it.
Okay, so this Lady of the Library video is fascinating. I didn't pre-watch this one.
Okay.
But I want to say, it's interesting. It only recently became, I think, really fashionable to talk about the end of reading. For a long time, even in its most, I think, sophisticated formulation, which I'll still attribute to McLuhan, there's a lot of pushback. There's a lot of pushback because McLuhan had this idea that we were leaving what he called the Gutenberg galaxy, naming it off of Johannes Gutenberg, inventor of the printing press. Mm-hmm. So in a way, it's saying that we're leaving the printed galaxy for other shores of bidirectional digital mediation in this whole thing. The cyber world, for example. You had people like Umberto Eco who'd always kind of militate against this thesis of some kind of departure from text. For a long time, there was a sense that the textual world was a kind of indestructible library, that that it was just too important, too efficient in a sense, too capable of being a way in which to deliver knowledge. Even nowadays, you still have this to a certain extent. I mean, I have this to a certain extent. For example, I doubt the ability to transmit philosophical information in a way that's as qualitatively encapsulating as with something like books in like the written form. But this idea that we're finally departing from this, it's only becoming, I think, really fashionable recently. For example, Umberto Eco would fall in the idea that, well, we have more readers than ever. But he would always do this not per capita, but as a kind of mass calculation, meaning that
Interesting.
more books are being sold. Sorry?
Yeah, that's interesting. There's
Mhm.
people who rely on metrics of books being sold as well, and the growth
Hmm.
in the books industry. I do think that, especially in the modern age, is going to be a little bit of a weird metric because there's
Backfiring.
Well, it's massively problematic because just like one of the things that happens with book talk, especially because these books suck. Most of the books they promote suck, but they promote them because they're being promoted.
Yeah.
Like there's sort of an Ouroboros going on there. But the thing is, people buy these things, they don't enjoy them,
Yeah.
and they don't read them, which means a lot of these sales are not actually culminating in anybody reading this stuff.
Exactly.
Because it's
more
a
like-
lot easier. It's a lot easier to buy 5 books for $50 than it is to sit down for 50 hours and read them all.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
that there's an entire like meta culture around these books that people participate in which the book is just the thing. There's just like literally just a signifier by itself that just anchors them to that, and they're not reading the book.
Well, can we talk about this for a second?
Another
Can we talk-
thing, but I wanted to elaborate a little bit on this, Imran, because I wanted to ask you a question, which is that isn't this also this logic of the text being indestructible or so structurally important also embedded in structuralism itself? Because that's the original site of that kind of logic.
I'd have to think about the way in which you're asking this question. I thought you were going to ask me if I was going to read your essay finally. No, I'm joking. But well, okay, it depends on how you want to ask the question. Of course, if we want to talk, so usually the way in which people want to talk about structuralism and the importance of the text would be something like in almost a kind of like death of the author thing, where it's about the importance of the evolution of language. When it comes to, so I don't really, I have trouble understanding exactly what you mean by this. When you say structuralism or structural, what are you pointing to exactly?
Just literally just the text as the signs by which we understand language.
Okay.
And yeah.
Um, I think for a long time. Well, okay, so here what's important, I think, is remembering something like the printing press. Because we have to understand that before knowledge was prized as something that should be universally accessible, it had to have the ability to be universally facilitated in the first place. And here's something like a history of the techniques of reading is really important to think about, which is to say that previously, as we all more or less understand, within previously stratified societies, being able to read was a remarkable luxury. And oral transmission was the main way in which most common folk were able to understand things. And in fact, reading silently is a fairly new innovation within the history of society or humanity, more or less. I think there's a fun anecdote everyone kind of knows about, where someone found a monk. This might have been like the 3rd century or whenever, and he was reading to himself silently, and they thought this was incredible because prior to this, you had to, in a sense, speak out the words. Everyone would kind of
There was a broad
word.
tradition of reading books aloud to other people because there was not a proliferation of copies of books. It was very
Right,
rare.
which speaks to the persistence of an oral tradition. I mean, even by the time you get to 20th century linguists like Fernand de Saussure, the text follows speaking. He still privileges the oral, which is for him how we get evolutions of language whatsoever, because of the differences in pronunciation and this whole thing. Soon, at some
Someone
point,
in chat,
yeah.
Someone in chat asked an interesting question as well, Grelia. Do they count free digital downloads as sales too? Because it's like, this is the question I'm constantly asking whenever people bring up, like, oh, there's a literacy crisis. People aren't reading books. There's no attention paid whatsoever to, like, even if they were reading books. Like, let's say we live in an alternative universe where television is, age restricted. or just there's nothing. People just move away from TV if they're only reading essentially television on the page. Like they're only reading light novels. They're only reading, I don't know, children's novels, like young adult dystopian fiction where it's all the same story over and over and over again with some mild aesthetic differences. Would we count that as being superior to them? I don't know. Reading less but watching more sophisticated television that dealt with themes better. And there's this weird prejudice against other mediums of information, under this weird assumption that reading is necessarily, just of necessity by default, more intellectually stimulating. But I gotta tell you, like, someone who watches a Robert Eggers film is probably being more stimulated than someone reading Twilight.
Okay.
But one of those people is going to be reading a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I've discovered something like this in my own way. Like, oftentimes, some of the more intellectually, oh man, I'm gonna sound like a fucking very supercilious. But some of the more, let's say, philosophically stimulating conversations I've had have come from people who are massive film buffs and who understand, who like watch stuff by like Vittorio De Sica from like 1976 and that whole thing, rather than people who just like read book talk recs. So there's something to that. I think what used to give reading its purchase are a couple things. For one thing, I remember getting this from David Foster Wallace. The fact that you actually can't really, it's more difficult to passively consume a book, like at a physiological level. You literally have to read yourself through it. Which, and by the way, if you ever have trouble falling asleep, my big recommendation is like getting a big nonfiction book and reading it all the way through, or at least trying to. That's a great way of falling asleep. Why? Because you're actually engaging in a strenuous thing. You can't actually, the movement is something that has to be commanded by you at every level. Mm-hmm. There's something to that, maybe that very preliminary process. But I think a lot of it too is that there is an idea, and maybe this is more literary, I have to admit, but there's an idea that there's a certain form of intimacy or interiority or revelation that can come from a text that's difficult to replicate in other forms of media. And so it'd be the account would be something like, there are ways in which I can represent anxieties or ambivalences or fears within a character that it's difficult to represent outwardly in say, for example, a play or something like this. Which,
I agree with that one.
Yeah,
I agree with that 100%, and I think that it is the case that like good literature can do more than even the best television or the best film or the best plays or whatever. Maybe not with plays because they are a literary form, but leaving that aside, it's like true. But one of the things that all these articles and videos about the literacy crisis never actually take into account is the actual quality of what's being read. They'll talk about like, oh, they're not reading whole books and things like that. And it's like, yeah, I think it would be much more preferable if people spent a lot of time reading whole books. But they're never paying attention to what is actually being done, for example, in schools when sections of books are being taught and so on. There's this weird fetishization of the complete text. And it even ignores like the actual origins of the text themselves. It's like, oh, they're not reading all of Charles Dickens. They're just reading a section of Charles Dickens. Original readers of Charles Dickens only read sections. They were serials. They're only packaged as individual books now. So it's like, yeah, go on.
Oh, yeah. So there's actually an interesting thing about this. I did a deep dive not that long ago into this. I'll see if I can bring up the study. It may take me a few minutes. But one of the interesting things is that literacy rates on longer pieces of reading have actually gone down significantly worse than on shorter pieces. So students are more able to, or are comparatively more able to make sense of paragraphs than of longer pieces. That when you increase the length, many students are failing to even pick up basic events in the story and basic themes. Mm-hmm. So there's an interesting element there that I think where, for example, teachers have talked about how they've been forced to, because students are not reading books that they assign, they've been forced to take just small excerpts from those books, right? And that's something I think worth having a discussion around.
It's worth having a discussion around. I see your point. I also see Sunday's point. in which it's very difficult to lock down a very kind of easily digestible molar category from which you can say one is reading more or less.
Yes.
That is difficult. But I do take
I would
your
like
point.
to throw my hat. I would like to throw my hat in the ring real quick. So I work as an SEA, which is a specialized education assistant. I'm a glorified TA basically. And I had to work with kids today on reading. I work at an elementary school, K through 5, and today I was testing, fourth graders. I have to because we just got back in, so some of these kids I still remember them in third grade, so I almost got confused. But basically, as I was talking to some of the other assistants, some of these kids in fourth or fifth grade still can't read at their own reading level. Today, I worked with kids who, a fourth grader who can barely read at his own level or just read in general. And I had to tell him, like, hey, first I told him, fun fact, we're a Germanic language and English sucks. But in general, you live in a country where education is constantly being cut. Do not feel bad about yourself, because you looked very sad that he hadn't improved since third grade.
Yeah.
And this is something that I feel frustrated about because, listen, as I said earlier, I live down south. You, Richard, and Imran, they got lucky. They got to grow up in DC and get to good schools. I was somewhat lucky. I got to go to the mainly white schools, which were funded in Memphis. But overall, education in, especially in red states such as Tennessee is terrible because they keep cutting stuff. Where it be, hold on, because I really do need to do more research into this because it is something that has been pissing me off recently. Yeah, because today I also had to work with a second grader, testing him on his reading, and he told me straight up, I can't read. And I had to read it with him. He only got one word out of the whole thing. Out of the two passages we had to read, he only got one word.
Wow.
And what makes it worse is I know part of this has to be racialized because this is a majority black school, but this doesn't only affect black kids. It's affecting poor people in general, because Memphis is a very poor city.
The cuts to education immediately affect lower income people, and as soon as there is any overlap with any kind of racial group, immediately you have racial targeting of these policies. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think something else that I would mention as well is that, like, a major issue I have with the way people are responding to this is they're talking about the issue as if it has to do with culture and consumption habits of media, when it really doesn't. A major factor is that people have less. Go on.
Yes, so that's another thing too. So again, if you ever see me talking to Cathedral before about like black issues and shit, one of the things is I find difficult in talking with my coworkers is because they focus too much on the cultural aspect of, what the parents need to do better, what the principal needs to do better. They're thinking too small. They're thinking too individualistic. And I keep trying to point to the more structural aspect, but they don't understand it because I'm a terrible communicator. Like I suck at communicating right now. There's a reason why I keep calling myself stupid compared to you guys. You guys know how to talk better than me.
First of all, stop calling yourself stupid. You communicate just fine. The reason why you're probably not communicating this very effectively is because people are ideological assholes and they're resistant to that kind of talk. Full stop. I don't think you're a bad communicator. You're talking perfectly well. Stop self-denigrating.
I don't even think they have they don't even have this ideological outlook. That's why I always try to push them to more radical black tradition. Like I told one of my coworkers, hey, read up on Huey P. Newton, because that would be to die for the people, because that would be at least one way to get you to better understand that this is more than just an individual community. This is a structure that has stacked everything against us. We can't keep blaming the parents, and that feels good. I get it. I hate the parents too. They suck. I mean, but even then, I know that's not their fault.
Give the parents a break. Hey, the parents are also working their asses off, and they don't have time for their kids as the result, and they're stressed to hell. It affects the parents too. They also had the same problem. Let's chill on the parents a little bit.
This is the environment that I work in. Really, this is the environment and everyone is stressed out, and the parents are stressed. Hold on for a moment.
Okay, hang on. Hold that thought for a second. You're cutting out a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe find a good distance from your mic and just hold there.
Thrush said
Did we lose it?
they'll be back. Well, no,
Oh,
Thrush said they'll be
yeah.
back if I remember well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Brooks in chat was also noting the discussion of the pre-queuing issue in how reading is being taught. That's only just now starting to be overturned in some states. Where they were basically, for the TLDR for people who aren't very familiar, there was an Australian academic who was observing how dyslexic kids were learning to read and trying to develop a method for how to teach them how to read, right? And so they did this by observing the kids who are able to seemingly read and seeing how they were accomplishing this. The issue is, academic is pushing it. What's her name? Anyway, that's fine.
August, don't read chat. Don't read chat. Just say the thing.
Okay. And so what ended up happening was they end up recreating the maladaptive method by which dyslexic kids were not learning to read, but learning to pictorially recognize words and have ways that they were understanding the words non-phonetically. And
through presentation rather than decoding them. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so they were essentially, and then they started rolling out this method as a method to teach non-dyslexic kids as well. And it really, really, really doesn't work. It doesn't not work. It's actively harmful to kids learning how to read. Like, for example, I have dyslexia. As a kid, the program that I was taught is basically the exact opposite of this. It teaches you precisely to not do this. They're teaching kids how to read like maladaptive
how to be
dyslexic.
dyslexic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah, Brooks, you're welcome to come on. So it went from this thing where they were observing dyslexic kids and drawing unfounded or badly formulated conclusion based upon that, to now this whole massive industry being sold to teachers and state governments and all these different things to teach reading in a way that is actively harmful. Like, kids who are exposed to the 3-queuing method read worse later down the line in their life outcomes. It's because they're teaching them not to read.
They pick up reading quicker?
Sometimes there are increases in picking up what appears to be reading early because they're able to recognize words that they memorize as opposed to learning how phonetics work and actually read them.
I do wonder, in light of this, because I understand the argument that we're giving undue influence to something like media or like new devices, but it seems like new devices aren't negligible in terms of their influence. And I do wonder how we adjust our conversation about this. Like, pretty much everyone I know who's my age has trouble navigating, sitting down and reading something, like, at all. And it is true that this was a problem, say, for example, in the 90s. Like, I remember an interview where an author I liked talked about how he has a lot of, like, really intelligent, this is in the 1990s, I think, or early 2000s. And he said, I have a lot of intelligent friends who actually just don't read anything. And his point was that, well, in fact, oftentimes to read, you have to sequester yourself in a quiet space and just engage in that activity singularly. Yeah.
Very quickly, Richard, I apologize. I'm going to, I've been sitting there for like 5 hours, so I'm going to take off now because Brooks is in. You guys have a good rest of your stream, and thank you for putting this on.
You just knew I was here to call you out.
Call me out for what?
I don't know.
Something.
Yeah, let me get the.
Take care, Sunday.
Let me get the.
He's your problem now. Okay.
Goodbye. Brooks, you're going to enlighten us on the disastrous effects of 3-queuing, I hear.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, I did I spent a great deal of time working on a video series sort of going over how literacy is a fundamental thing we don't understand or talk about correctly, because we tend to talk about it like the binary, and this is not anyone's fault. This is just the way that people tend to talk about it, is we talk about it as you can read or you can't. But the problem is, like, slower reading is not slower reading. There's types of reading. There are differences in kind when it comes to the actual quality of the experience of reading itself. So someone who, as August was describing 3Qing, hunts and pecks and doesn't really read at a speed that allows decoding to occur, they're still reading. They're able to make it through. And this is where the original 3Qing came from, is she saw there were students who were still dyslexic and had built a process of reading that got around their own disability rather than, teaching them to sort of charge through it, which tends to be the way that we talk about it the last 10, 15 years. You kind of dive in rather than sort of go around and work around and build sort of other machines around it. That challenge, that shift puts people in a position where they're necessarily only able to read a handful of words at a time. And as they do this, they're only able to glean the meaning to make sense of a handful of words at a time. People who read at decoding speeds, and dyslexic people are capable of this, just to be very clear, they're absolutely capable of this. Most people are. What it is a different type of reading at a fundamental level. You're not actually keeping almost any of the words in your head. When you're reading and you're decoding, you're actually just going, and the process sort of skips a step almost in comparison to what the other system is. So what they've found in studies, and they're damning. They're like, the science on this is not like out, and we're trying to figure. It's like it's damning in education. Is what we've fundamentally have done for 30 plus years, as we've been teaching 3Qing in the West, especially in the West. We've basically raised a generation of kids who read slower and only a handful of words at a time, which then creates the type of reading that, again, can only have a handful of words in their head at a time. If I read slowly, and most of the people who are probably watching this, or I know almost all of you, the way that you guys actually can operate, you can read, and you can read slowly. I also can, but it's a different function than the traditional slow reading that someone who's done 3Qing sort of lives by. That setup is so fundamentally different that when we talk about the kids today and how they're in the devices and how the systems have been built for them, or all of these things, that setup and that challenge becomes a fundamental problem. Because when she's talking about, or anyone's talking about, on devices, there's so many devices. That's no, it's actually projects that were made for the people who are using them. It didn't come first. The slow reading, the 3 words, the 10 words at a time limit came first, and products were built for those people, the average person, as all products are in capital. And so now we have a system that's reinforcing people built via 3Qing and actually punishing people who are able to decode and read better.
Can I give an anecdote of how that punishment works that you just alluded to?
Sure.
So when I was in grade school, everybody probably is aware of a little game called Popcorn, where somebody in the student body gets randomly picked, and they start reading the book that the class is reading. And at a certain point, that student could go popcorn and randomly pick another student to pick up where they left off. I was blessed to have a mother who was a teacher, and she made absolutely sure that I had a very high quality reading experience at home. She supplemented my education, basically. It made sure that I had phonics down really early. I was reading at extremely high level really early and all that stuff. And so what would happen is, a lot of the time, is that a lot of these kids who learned 3Qing in school would get stuck and mired in reading whatever book that we were reading. And it would just be excruciatingly slow. Just like, I'm talking like taking 30 seconds to get through a single sentence in like 5th grade. Right? Like, it's pretty bad. And so I, being a kid, I would get bored with this, and I would just read ahead. And I'd be like 20 pages ahead of the class. And then all of a sudden there'd be popcorn, like oh, it's my turn. And I would not know where the heck we were, because I was way beyond that. And so I would get punished by the teacher, told to I would have to stand up while everybody else is sitting down, after they told me, where we actually were, and then I would have to read out and stand for the duration. That was my little punishment for being able to read too well. It's funny.
And it's a thing that you'll see. I don't want to say it's common, but it's horrifyingly common in classrooms today, because again, and I probably put too simple of a face on it, but reading is for everyone the same act in terms of like quantification, right? It's the cost of converting the thing you're seeing and the words to a phonology of sorts and giving you access to the lexicon of meaning. And you do that per word and you go through it. This is reading for everyone. The quantity of that act is itself scalar. It is a thing that varies fairly smoothly, but it's generic as an element. The thing is, once you hit a certain point of that scale, a phase change occurs where we get a fundamentally different type of thing, and decoding changes the cost like in a very strange way, where the cost per word drops to a minimal nothing, and the cost per
like it almost
sentence,
vanishes.
depending. Yeah, exactly. And so and on this mass gradient of how literacy works, we've fundamentally been teaching our kids for 30 years. And that means everyone probably in the sound of my voice, if you were raised in the West, you were exposed to 3Qing in some capacity, if not almost wholly taught. And I use the term 3Qing. There are a dozen names that it's been put under because it's been banned in states. And so again, good old capitalism. They rename it. They add in a little bit of phonics to be fucky, all of that stuff. It's everywhere. And it's fundamental to how we teach. And so as we do, we see some people struggle with it and they're slower. We see ourselves a little faster. We see people who are records fast, and we assume they're all doing the same thing because that's, the narcissism that we all have. But that's not it. It's a fundamentally different operation. Sorry, go ahead.
Is it okay if I interrupt for a bit? Yeah.
Please. I won't shut up
otherwise. No problem. First, I wanted to say that this is a community channel. We want to include you guys in it whenever possible. So we were thinking of having some like game nights that we would stream for those that are unable to join. Maybe like Among Us or other party games. Maybe if somebody owns Jackbox. So yeah, if you're interested, please join the server. We'll be hosting them there, and indicate your interest in whatever games you think we should play. The second thing is that I think we should probably get started on the video.
Sure.
Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. The Optimists once believed that universal literacy was inevitable. Now it seems that the age of reading might be a short anomaly in human history. Now that sounds terribly dramatic, which always gets people's attention, and perhaps I am one of those naive optimists, but I had a look at this article, and the article sets the scene with equal flair. The author opens up by comparing the loss of the Library of Alexandria to the evolving statistics that Americans, whom the data in this article primarily focuses on, are reading less in today's digital age. Now, the data presented in the article is as follows. I'm afraid this is going to be very nerdy. I do love stats and data, so there's going to be lots of that in this video. Apologies in advance. Actually,
Wait,
not
pause for a
sorry.
second.
Become nerdy with me. So
I don't know if she's going to point this out, but I agree with her. Like, there's definitely a distinction between actual sources being destroyed and people just reading them less.
Yeah, that's a pretty a pretty drastic distinction, and I think it's kind of silly to pretend otherwise.
Yeah, I see the connection in that if people aren't reading the sources, then they might as well not exist. But there's a huge difference between nobody reading the sources and just a select few people reading the sources.
It's also not like people were reading the Library of Alexandria en masse. Part of the reason that people
Exactly,
consider it
yeah.
like a tragedy
The
is because
intellectual world has always been selective.
yes, exactly.
The reference library par excellence doesn't even
There's
exist.
also a bit of a major survivorship bias. Where people love, especially people who shit on people who can't read or fetishize reading, look back and they go, look at the letters from the Civil War and how beautiful they were in the handwriting. And it's like, yeah, the 12 people who ever wrote letters, because most people couldn't write and also were completely illiterate. So yes, there's a
Or
bias
didn't have anything to
in
write about.
Oh, no, most people couldn't. It wasn't a thing. Like education was horrifying. Literacy was a thing we've only conquered really in the 19th century, and it turns out that it kind of also has its own issues. So, like this idea that everyone should be able to read or all of this is again, it's fetishizing a very particular capability that most people have never had through history. To be frank.
I do want to also say, actually, there's a really funny anecdote about how it might have been in the start of industrialism, where workers would pay for boys to read to them. I think in England, while they would like do things like roofing, and that was a whole tradition. But interestingly enough, one of the things that people kind of get worried about is they'll see literacy rates for adults, and they'll see stats like most adults can read above like a middle school reading level. It's like a very common statistic you hear kind of touted about. It's probably true. But the thing that people don't follow up with is then why isn't society, why hasn't it collapsed? Which is usually should be the other end of that thought process, but never really gets there. It's just kind of usually touted out as like evidence that we're in some kind of Sodom Gomorrah-esque state of implosion. And I think it's good to point out that oftentimes basic employment and most of the functions of capital actually don't require a fully literate population. And consider that how you will, whether it's a grievous condition or something to shrug your shoulders at. But it is the case that when it comes to literacy or competency or just a general learnedness, a lot of that is, in a sense, kind of excessive to the requirements of capital for most people as a laboring class. Which
even
is why
anti potentially, yeah,
even anti, which is why, I mean, absolutely, even anti, absolutely. Which is precisely why, I don't know, you can have people who make like $75,000 a year and they would have a difficult time making it through a chapter of Moby Dick and upwards of this, right? Like a guy who owns like a landscaping company, for example, or, what have you. There used to be more qualitative, as an example, actually, it might have been the sociologist Hans Magnus Enzensberger who had this notion of what he called something like second order literacy. And so he wanted to say that there's a kind of literacy that you need in order to, for example, to sign documents or read road signs or understand product placements in infomercials and this sort of thing. But there's another
in society. You mean
precisely.
Participate in society? Yeah.
And there's another literacy that one would require in order to, again, read Milton or I forget who wrote Moby Dick. I don't know, or Goethe, et cetera, et cetera. Melville. Yeah. And that this might be vanishing.
You had to mention Goethe, didn't you? Just had to.
I had to. I know. Deleuzians have this issue with Goethe.
No, it's a Brooks thing. I just don't believe that's how it's pronounced, and I think you're all liars.
Oh, okay, interesting. But there is a funny anecdote about. I think it was Deleuze who said,
"Is Brooks the one that says Worcestershire sauce? It's either Sunday.
No
or Brooks.
way. You actually say that, Brooks?
No. I do not pronounce Worcestershire. I do not. That is not what I do. That is a Sunday thing.
Okay, then it's Sunday that says Worcestershire.
It's for the longest time. I just had been saying it out loud as Goth, and the one time my chat corrected me, I laughed so hard because I thought they were fucking with me, and so it's been a running joke.
I see. There's a funny anecdote.
I said Goethe in front of my German partner, and they laughed at me.
Yeah, because, okay, to be very clear, most people who speak an Indo-European language are fucking assholes about it, okay? This is like the whole idea that, it's just the French is untrue. If you speak any European, and same thing with accents, by the way. If you ever want to figure out whether your accent is good, don't tell the person you're doing an accent. This is the real test. Whenever you tell someone you're doing an accent, they're going to say it's bad. This is like a common thing with the English. If you tell an English person you're doing an English accent, they'll never validate it. Or else, yeah. What was I saying? There's a funny anecdote where Deleuze says that Kleist is actually the more Spinozist than Goethe, which is funny because Goethe, apparently he even broke off a friendship over matters of Spinoza. So I thought that's what Brooks was referring to, which would have been really
No, but I'm going to pretend it was.
okay. What were we talking about? Right. Okay. So second order literacy. So, I mean, there's an example of trying to refine the categories, right? Where it's not just that literacy is literacy, but there are different ways of being literate within society dependent upon the competency that you're engaged in. And that's an important thing to remember because again, we have to ask the question, how are things still able to carry on if a lot of society can't read in a quote unquote complex way, in the way that we usually, as an image, hold up something like complex literacy. And it's because it seems like most of our daily labors don't really require this and haven't required this since time immemorial, basically. And in fact, this is also maybe what's really scary. Unless you're autistic.
And you have to read that out of people's dialogue. Not dialogue, but like what they're actually saying.
I see. That's a fair point. But I think on top of this, and really what I'm trying to say here, is that I think the scary thing, I was reading an article the other day about the loss of the humanities. And there's some interesting responses to that article in the response section. And what's fascinating to me, and one of the, it was about British universities, because in England, they're undergoing a similar situation. In Britain in general, England, Ireland, Scotland, they're undergoing Wales even. They're undergoing a similar situation of basically cutting off humanities programs. And by the way, guys, it's steep. Like, I know people talk about this. It's not fear-mongering. The other day, I learned that UChicago started cutting some of its humanity programs. And that's UChicago. If anyone knows anything about academia, you know that UChicago tends to be like the heavenly bastion of humanities-based disciplines. And so when they're cutting it, it's really something severe.
Yeah, I've talked with people there was someone in the QC who I think pretty much their entire department got cut. Crazy.
Overnight. And so the thing here is, people are framing it like it's going to be something apocalyptic. Like we're reaching some kind of end of days, some kind of I forget what the term is for in religions when there's a notion of like an end times. I can't remember what it's called. But people have this this notion. What is it?
Or eschatology.
Eschatology, thank you. People have this almost kind of eschatology when it comes to literacy, that will reach some kind of degree zero, everything collapses. And in fact, I think the scary thing is not necessarily that we'll reach that point, but in fact that we'll go back to a previous point, meaning the restratification of intellectual life, which is one of the horrible aspects of previous generations. Not necessarily that you didn't have literacy, but that literacy was upwardly controlled and fairly immobile for the vast majority, or rather, fairly inaccessible for a very immobile society. And I think the return of this is really what's at stake, more than simply a complete catastrophic destruction of the literate. Anywho, we should probably get on with the video. I'm sorry, y'all. I've been yapping.
That's okay.
That was a good thing. Yeah, that was a good.
According to the National Endowment for the Arts, which conducts the most comprehensive survey of the nation's reading habits, fewer than half of all adults reported having read a book of any kind in 2022, and only 38% read a novel or a short story. Another study analysing 236,000 respondents to the American Time Use Survey found that the proportion of Americans who read for pleasure fell from 28% in 2000.
Is this all just from the article? I think it might be.
To 16% in 2023. It's also important to note here what reading for pleasure meant in this survey. It meant not just reading a book, but reading magazines or a newspaper, or listening to an audiobook, or...
Yeah, this is all the statistics just from the article itself. I don't know, it's a little odd the way that she's presenting it, like she did research? I don't know.
Reading an ebook. To strike how uncommon reading is, the author of this article used a statistic, which is, by contrast, gambling is a more common leisure activity than reading a book, with 57...
That's not a very high bar considering how popular gambling is right now.
Yeah,
I will say,
with how like legal it's become.
I will say that's a little concerning, not necessarily for literacy, but more for the prevalence of gambling. There is something to be said about the prevalence of
Yeah,
gambling.
like these aren't mutually exclusive hobbies.
No.
I would say, I think it's really fascinating that we do have a prevalence of gambling within our current economic state. Mostly because
Kalshi,
usually,
Kalshi
Yeah, yeah.
is
Did you guys have a
literally.
chance to check my
Sorry.
stream on the Minnesota
what are you
lawsuit
gonna say, Thresh?
and Kalshi? Oh, he was just saying Kalshi, I think.
Yeah, Kalshi and betting. No, yeah, Kalshi and betting on recently on polls I because I watch his son because I like his dumb ass, but sometimes when we watch they're pulling up for say Hong or El Sayed, the poll they're pulling from is Kalshi, and it's like,
Yep.
wait, that's a gambling site. Why are we trusting this site in particular? Is that not suspect? What?
Because it pays them.
It's accurate though compared to polls, right? Like Kalshi predicted I think Donald Trump winning more consistently than polls did, for example.
It's the same way. It's the same way people try to
Yeah.
predict things with the stock market. I mean, it's the same thing.
Man, I fucking love Cap. Jesus Christ.
Stock markets are an interesting situation. Because they're like a weird they're a weird addition to a basic material economy. In that there is the introduction of gambling, but it's almost Georges Bataille had a lot of interesting things to say about this. I wanted to say earlier that it's interesting that we have a lot of gambling right now because a lot of people are very financially insecure. And oftentimes this is the same population that engages in, for example, ritual and quotidian forms of sports betting.
Mhm.
DraftKings, I can't even remember all the names of these fucking betting agencies, FanDuel, etc.
It's what's left to people who want
Who are
to
desperate.
be able to get desperate, who want to get rich, who cannot get rich.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, usually the conventional idea was that gambling is always the result of having some kind of excess of resources, and so it was something like what Bataille would call a non-productive expenditure, meaning something beyond the usual rational productivity of capital investment, or the logic of investing your money to have some kind of guaranteed gain or return at the end of things. And so it was almost a kind of wasteful expenditure, a wasteful operation, almost definitionally. And so now we see this weird situation where people really don't have the money to be doing it, and yet they still latch on to the practice. And probably for different reasons, as you pointed out, like a way to kind of circumvent the usual process of labor. Because if you get rich, you don't have to work anymore. I have family members that are basically fall into this trap. Well, they'll like do like there are entire sectors of YouTube, by the way, where people just try to like work on manifesting spiritual returns on gambling, like on like for example lottery tickets. And
I
this
would
whole
even
thing.
look at
Dude, is this really something that's increased, or have we just forgotten about lottos and scratch offs and their prevalence prior to this?
When it comes to lotteries, I don't know. When it comes to online gambling, I 1000% think it's increased.
No, I mean, again, but to be specific, we weren't saying online. It was gambling. That this is the thing that people are taking part in, and I still don't know if it's necessarily more of the population doing it versus
the amount of
was
money
the
being
case.
lost, I think, is
Yeah, and I wonder
significantly
if
increased, as well as younger populations. Like scratch off was much more of an old person thing before, and now with the introduction of things like Kalshi and DraftKings, there's a massive
There's a
preponderance of
whole new
young
segment.
of young men.
Well, okay,
especially.
I will say there is always a problem of falsifiability with these questions because when we're talking about something being transferred onto like a digital information tracking platform, you are going to see more instances, regardless of whether or not there's an increase, and this is a
The
difficulty.
visibility.
So for example, if guys are gambling in their garage every Friday, this doesn't make it onto some kind of spreadsheet somewhere. When people are gambling on Kalshi, it does. And so I would say it's one of those things where we're in a bit of a gray goo area. Can we say definitively that it has increased? Maybe not, but we also can't say definitively that it hasn't increased. And that's the question made upon falsifiable grounds. It has to be that's probably dislocated in this whole inquiry, and is going to be a question of what you anecdotally see. Me anecdotally, I will say that I've seen people who I feel like customarily were not people who are given to doing things like gambling, talking about like placing sports bets. And I think that's very interesting. It is anecdotal though. What is this, August?
I was just looking up a study on the prevalence of gambling between 2010 and 2024.
Hmm. Okay, well, we should probably look at that later though, before
Okay.
the audience literally falls asleep. Okay, let's
Fair
get on with the video. I derailed
Yeah.
us. We're gonna figure out the
Yeah.
end of reading.
percent of Americans having placed a bet in the last year
God willing.
compared to percentages reading. Now, obviously, this sounds really upsetting, but if we're going to be honest, I would argue that most leisure activities would beat reading hands down if we think of what constitutes a leisure activity if gambling is considered one, which it is. So that would include walking or playing a sport or watching television, drinking.
Wait, what about like stock trading that people are doing that's crazy leveraged stocks that's basically gambling?
Okay, hold on. This actually refers to a massive problem within our contemporary economy. There's a section of labor studies called digital labor studies. And what's so interesting about this fairly new discipline of analysis is that they have realized, and in fact, this has been a kind of long-standing thing, but they've realized that with the onset of like a cyber economy, there's been a blending of, about what people would traditionally consider labor and traditionally consider leisure. So, for example, if you play video games all day and you stream it, is that labor or leisure? What is that? If you're making money off of it, we should call it labor, but at the same time, you're doing it through an activity that has been historically understood as off-time sorts of pleasuring yourself. Similarly, I'm trying to think of an inverted example. Similarly, there are a lot of leisure activities that are basically consistent of like simulating labor. Not wholly and completely, but like in partial ways. Like, for example, we had a lot of like truck simulators or farm simulators or simulator this, simulator that. And so the entire
Doing
like
chores in video games, regardless of whether they resemble real
The
life.
simulator.
yeah, exactly. And so there's an interesting kind of cultural meeting, like kind of implosion happening, where a lot of what's in a sense phenomenally understood as labor or leisure is meeting its antithesis in the
I
middle.
was about to come in and say consumption and production are the same thing.
No, actually,
Sorry.
I have a problem. She's still referencing that Atlantic article, right?
Yeah.
Because that's and the source in that for this gambling thing is the American Gaming Association. It's literally the gambling business saying that our business is growing and will continue to grow.
That's funny.
That's the
Okay.
source.
Oh, great.
And by the way, it includes explicitly anyone who bought a lottery ticket, placed a sports bet, visited a casino, or played in any online platform that has gambling.
Played in
So-
any online platform that has gambling. Okay.
That's not my wording. That's the American.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, no, I'm just
This is an industry association who's like, hey, look at how many more people are doing the thing. You should invest in us more.
great.
So, yay. I fucking hate articles. I hate all these people. They're terrible. AI would do better. AI would do better again, by the way.
No, you're gonna sound like John Green in like 2 seconds. You got to watch out. Also,
Hey, no, because she already made the comment, and I let it glaze. But she made the comment about how, and you guys mentioned it, and it was one of the big things that people can't paraphrase multi-page texts, right? And she said it's 30% now, and it was under 20%. And if you actually go in and you look at the NCES study, they explicitly say not to make this inference. It's actually in the study because they changed the way the study works. And so you can't compare. It's apples and oranges.
Oh
Interesting.
Lord.
I do want to say
And this
that's
happens a lot actually in science, where different studies are incompatible, so you can't like draw inferences like this.
Yeah, it's impossible to know the jump from 19 to 28%. Is it that is the case, or is it also, hey, we fundamentally changed how we instantiate the case, and so we're actually better at getting people that we would have missed previously, which is usually, by the way, the answer, and you kind of have to accept that. So this is not great.
Scrolling on social media, all of that would very much likely beat reading, and that's not a new. This video isn't about me dismissing any sort of idea of a reading crisis or the concerns with literacy, not in the slightest, but this video is about something else. You see, I believe that the modern reader has become so accustomed to our world that these discussions would benefit from being reconfigured within a historical context for us to understand what is happening and how we may want to feel about it, and look at the situation a little bit differently with history in mind, without the need for defining anything as a crisis as of yet. So let's kind of zoom out on this topic for a second and look at where reading falls within the history of our social evolution. Because whilst reading is an ancient activity, with people reading about 5,200 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia, literacy skills have only become widely available since the mid-19th century. Because between 1851 and 1900, there was a rise in British male literacy. It went from 69% to 97%. But for the female part of that population, the improvement in literacy rates was even more pronounced. It went from 54% to 96%. But that's just Britain. For other areas of the world, this change actually happened much later. So in China, for example, as recently as 1949, roughly 90% of Chinese women were illiterate. But the post-revolution education reforms and later government outlines to eradicate rural illiteracy saw that rate drop to 32% by 1990. In 1900, the world literacy rate barely exceeded 20%, but from the 1950s on, world literacy began to increase, reaching 42% by 1960 and 70% by 1983. And as of 2022, the global literacy rate stood at 87%, which equates to around 9 out of 10 people worldwide. All of that was to say that the broader general population of the world has only been literate for less than 200 years, and for some, it hasn't even been 100 years, which is astounding considering how long reading has been an activity in human history. Even then, reading for leisure was a privileged activity denied to most people. I've done a whole video on the history.
This point's debatable, but we can continue on.
No, hold on. I do want to say that this does suffer a little bit from the literacy point we've been talking about earlier, right? Where it's like your whole thing, yeah. So if your whole thing is that you don't think about different types of literacy or literacy on different occasions for different purposes, then of course it's just going to look like we're making fundamental intellectual improvements. And the reason why I don't like that is because it ends up supporting a little bit of a kind of a Whig history, if you see what I mean by this. In which case, we've just made incremental progress in a way that makes our forebears look entirely ignorant in comparison.
Oh, and it plays directly into the idea of intelligence also, by the way. If you like, it's the way intelligence has improved over time or is a measurable thing, the same way literacy is a singular measurement. This scientist bullshit version of how we understand things that simplifies it so that way we can pretend it's a thing that we're able to actually measure is silly and frustrating and shitty on its face.
Yeah.
The library if you're interested, but in brief, after the First World War, changes to the publishing industry coupled with the growth of public libraries in the 1920s and the spread of two-penny libraries in the 1930s created the new type of reader, us, the general reader. These readers were not from elite institutions and they did not own a library. They certainly didn't get one from their parents inherited down. They were working class individuals, and as such, the general public has only ever had the fortune of engaging in reading as a leisure activity for just over 100 years. Again, if that. That's just using Britain as a rough estimate, but most of the world still didn't. For less than 100 years. Think about it, we've been reading for leisure for less than 100 years. Additionally, what constitutes as reading has evolved rapidly in the span of less than 30 years. So rather than be restricted to a narrow concept of just books or texts, reading happens everywhere. And as such, it's probably more accurate to say people are reading more than ever before, not less. It's not the death of reading, because people read on social media, they read news websites.
This is also in the article.
Wonderful.
They read text.
And again, just to say, just because I'm gonna say this like every single time she probably talks from here out, the idea of literacy and comparing that to the idea of people being able to properly decode a multi-part or multi-page or multi-format part of an essay are not the same things, and they're not even slightly equivalent. So they're not things you can measure against each other in any way that's meaningful at all.
Right.
read Reddit, they read emails, instruction manuals, AI conversations, signs on the street. Most people have to read at some point in their day for work. People are more likely to read as an activity than anything else they do in their day, percentage-wise, with all the media they consume. But the question that now arises is how much do they read for pleasure? And what is the quality of the content they're reading? But before we go any further, I'd like to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, which is...
She offers nothing for that last claim, that people are reading more than ever rather than less. Like, I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with it, but that's a hell of a fucking statement, given how she's talking about or referring to things that people are reading. Again, it's a flattening term in the way she works. In my video on literacy, I show one of my favorite TikTokers who's like literally been learning to read on TikTok, and it's a horrifying, like wonderful, beautiful, but terrifying thing.
I know that guy. I've seen that guy.
Yeah, and what he's been doing is also showing, like, now that he can read, how insanely different it is. He used to be able to make his way through a grocery store. So because someone can read, quote unquote, they can make out symbols, they can understand generally the gist of a thing. A meme on Twitter, they can get the idea of, that's not reading. Again, this is where we start talking about why reading is itself a fraught concept. But she has absolutely no evidence for this, and she could pull it. There's a whole bunch of different things when it comes to like consumers and how they deal with stuff, but she's got no. She makes a hell of a claim.
Well, yeah, it's just nothing. Reiterating a claim in the article that's also
Summary tube.
So make sure you skip through the ad placement.
Books or physical newspapers, people are reading less frequently compared to a few decades ago when reading for pleasure became a more accessible activity for the masses. The difference that has happened is that the data suggests the texture of what we're reading.
Data suggests. Got a source for that?
We looked at the data.
Which is the thing she's suggesting? What is the claim?
Is becoming less coarse, to put it another way.
That we're reading more
accessible activity for the masses. The difference that has happened is that the data suggests the texture of what we're reading is becoming less coarse, to put.
What? Less coarse.
Let's see.
I have no idea what that means.
That's not, there's zero chance she has any study for that. That's a nonsense word.
Yeah.
Another way. Analysis by The Economist in September last year.
I need someone to tell me that. Mean like usually means something bumpy, rough.
Texture. Usually a fancy way of saying I know what rough. It means. I mean, in like the context of this, though. Like, God damn it.
Well, so that's the weird thing. It feels like she's taking a lot of literary license. I can imagine coarse. If I were to try to apply it to a text, it'd be something like the sentences are short, or it's abrupt, or it's cutting somehow.
But she's talking about the practice of reading and the acceptability of reading.
Well, she's saying that the texts themselves are somehow less coarse, and I'm trying to think about how
she's saying the text themselves.
She's saying she's saying like manuals or like I don't know.
No, my guess.
And this is strange, by the way,
that she's trying to contrast that with like smoothness, right? So a text being smooth means that it's like easily consumable. Whereas if it's coarse, it would be more difficult. But this is
okay. So I'd have to think about this. The one thing I think about here is something like, the fact that English used to have a lot more, say for example, subordinate clauses in a sentence. If you read someone like John Locke, you're getting assaulted by clause after clause after clause, and sometimes it's unclear whether the end of the sentence follows the beginning.
I think she's making a crude.
Dude, yeah.
I think
dude, like just go back. Old English is like 50 to 100 words in like a single fucking sentence. It's insane.
It is insane. I don't know if that's what she means or if it's something else.
Well, she's about to cite something.
I think she's making a very crude allusion to the quote unquote consumer friendliness of books as opposed to
a frictionlessness. Like I know people tend to they tend to use that term, like we're losing friction, everything's becoming smooth or seamless, or so like in that way almost.
Yeah.
Coarse, to put it another way. Analysis by The Economist in September last year compared the average word per sentence in popular books today against books dating back to
The average word. Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wait. I know this line. I know this one. I've seen this in other videos. I know this. This is bullshit and stupid. So we can just move forward. This is stupid. She's good. This is stupid. This is stupid.
The idea is that the sentences are getting shorter or something.
What is she
like
going to
that.
argue?
No, she.
It's technically true, by the way, but it's not true in our time period. It's true in the history of the written word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no.
God, it
Okay,
must
no,
be
I'm not.
so
I'm not
awesome
joking.
to be a.
I'm not
So
joking.
like
Like
the
this is
scale doesn't make sense.
like the way that writing has changed is it has become, as it becomes more functional, as it becomes what it is, grammar shifts and long sentences can be replaced by words that have better meaning, more, to be frank, more poetic, even if they're not as long. This is a thing that has been going on far, far, far beyond we talked about Old English here. Like you're talking about like Elizabethan writing. It's 50 to 100 words at least. At least, like they were fucking long. Have you not read Shakespeare? Like he doesn't have a lot of periods. I know this stupid argument, and it's people who don't understand like the history of this.
I want to proffer a quick anecdote.
God.
I want to say that, like, at least since Hemingway, we've had a very smooth reading experience. Like, if you pick up a novel from like 1946, and it's like a regular kind of mass-released, well-received novel, usually it's not going to be any more circuitous, for example, than a novel today, in my experience. Like, maybe we can prove this. Maybe we can test this. Maybe I'll pick up and read some lines from The Old Man and the Sea. Give me a second. I'll be right back.
Old Man in the
God,
Sea is
it
very
must be
sparse in its
awesome.
language.
It must be really awesome to be from London, because I swear to God, you can fool anyone with that fucking accent and they will just eat whatever you say.
Yeah.
So
1931, and it found that sentence.
Yep. Okay. What's this?
I hate posh British accents in part for this reason.
It's just easy to hate them.
Yeah.
They deserve it.
it's clearly a class distinction, because I forgot what this like lefty message board was. It was something stupid, but some of the people on there, one of them was this trans woman who lived in England, and she hated these tone things or whatever the fact that Blue Sky was doing, and she said it was classist, and I thought it was weird. And I had to remember, oh yeah, your accent really does depend on how you're perceived in England, I suppose.
Oh yes.
I mean, it kind of works here in America. If you're from the South, people are gonna think you're stupid. So,
So, Brooks,
Okay,
I
I
have an
want to,
answer for you on why she used the word coarse. It's because she was paraphrasing the sentence straight out of the text and used a synonym. She just used a synonym.
God fucking damn it. God.
Wait.
The texture of
Sorry, I'm just reading slightly ahead. We analyzed. Oh, this article's bad.
Yeah.
We analyzed hundreds of New York Times bestsellers, found the sentences in popular books have contracted by almost a third since the 1930s. They start with Modern Painters by John Ruskin, which is 90 years before that.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
That's from the
Ruskin
1840s, isn't it? It's from the 1840s.
Around there, roughly. Ruskin is like one of the old timers,
Like,
even of his.
He died before the Civil War. Like this was like old masters of things.
Yeah.
Like old shit.
Yeah.
So since 1931, we're going to start with something almost 100 years before that. Jesus Christ.
Okay, I want to read.
Please give me AI. AI wouldn't do this. I'm just so tired of humans.
1843
I have The Old Man in the Sea.
Was when this book was written.
By the way, Brooks is being integrated. Brooks is being integrated as we speak. I have The Old Man in the Sea with me here. And to be clear, this novella was published. This novella was published in 1952.
Toxic Masculinity,
which is only 20 years ago, apparently.
So
sorry,
true.
just contracting time as I understand how it works now.
Here's how the novel opens up. Here's the first paragraph of the novel. And chat can tell us if this sounds way more prolix than the stuff we tend to read today. It starts off, he was an old man who fished alone in a skiff in the Gulf Stream, and he had gone 84 days now without taking a fish. In the first 40 days, a boy had been with him. But after 40 days without a fish, the boy's parents had told him that the old man was now definitely and finally Salau, which is the worst form of unlucky. And the boy had gone at their orders in another boat, which caught 3 good fish the first week. It made the boy sad to see the old man coming each day with his skiff empty, and he always went down to help him carry either the coiled lines or the gaff and harpoon and the sail that was furled around the mast. The sail was patched with flour sacks and, furled, it looked like the flag of permanent defeat. That's from 1952? It's basically like today. Like, it's fair. Hemingway was part of a massive movement. You have to understand the 20th century to, in a sense, stiffen up the language. Why? Because the idea was that we're in a new age. To steal the words of Bukowski, we're in an atomic age, and language has to kind of have this bim 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 effect. It has to just kind of go say the thing. This was in practice more than a century ago, and so the idea that words have just been getting shorter in that time frame, it's a little bit, I don't know, because at the end of the day, we have a literature that's still very short and actionable before we even had like the Ford Mustang. So
there's actually a lot of work done to show that over time sentences have gotten shorter. It's a grammatical thing. It doesn't have impact on like how meaning works, because now like what you wrote, what you just read from Old Man in the Sea could have been 4 sentences and it would have effectively the same meaning. Like it's a shift in register. That's basically the thing.
Mhm.
Sentences had contracted by a third over that period of time. So they gave an example. They looked at the opening sentence of the Victorian bestseller Modern Painters by John Ruskin, which is 153 words long, and that was rather different from the 19 words of the opening sentence to Let Them by Mel Robbins. Now, should state the obvious, not of the opening.
Are these even...
Why are you comparing them?
Yeah. Is this even the same genre?
No, that's a really bizarre.
Like,
it's a really bizarre comparison.
Not only is it not the same genre, the genres are so different across time, and this is a highly consumable, like, slop book.
I wish I could just read summaries of terrible articles and get paid. That's just incredible.
Sponsored by Squarespace.
With sponsors.
2 sponsors.
With fucking sponsors.
Let Them by Mel Robbins. Now, should state the obvious, not all long sentences are good, just as all short sentences are not bad. They are just different, and their effectiveness depends on the skill of the writer.
All
but
short
the shortness
sentences
of
are
a
not
sentence
bad.
opens up possibilities for other questions to have, such as, are these shorter sentences indicative of a society that's evolving with less patience? People who want to just get on with it, who can't handle
Jesus
watching
Christ.
more than 3 minutes of a video, who rapidly skim through emails and texts and books just to say they have read them and got it over with? And if that is the case, is this a behaviour indicative of our brains becoming lazier and just wanting that fast dopamine, or of our brains being overworked and overwired thanks to capitalistic messaging that tells you that time is money and that the more you get...
Oh yeah, it's just messaging. It's not like an actual lived reality that people have to contend with, that they have to make a living.
She picked a fucking book. They picked a fucking book that is literally a pop garbage capitalist slop book about doing better and making more money. Like,
Yeah.
yes, when you compare that with like Modern Painters, like, you know, In Search of Lost Time is kind of a long book. My son has Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Fewer words overall. And I got to tell you, it's just an indictment of children.
True.
Hey, Brooks, you are a good father. That shit came out when I was a kid. That is a classic. You're a good dad.
Dexter loves
I practically
it.
learned to
Dexter
read on
loves
those books.
I love how your praise of Brooks is that he has like the right consumption habits. Like he's promoting consumption habits in his kids. Like you're buying the right
I am
stuff.
a good
Bitch, he's promoting my childhood nostalgia.
Listen, mine too.
I was like one of the few times.
I was also a Diary of a Wimpy Kid, so don't worry. I understand where you're coming from.
And I
hated
was an In
reading
Search
as
of
a
Lost
kid.
Time kid, so it works out.
Oh, okay, all right. That's Chillax.
I hated reading as a kid because we had this thing called AR and it was graded. Like it was part of your grade. You could, if you failed it, you get held back. It made reading hell. It was one Diary of a Wimpy Kid was one of the few books that actually made reading enjoyable for me as a kid.
Yeah.
I will say though, hold on. I
That
will
and
say
Captain
that
Underpants.
well, even the literature of children has been assaulted for being like slop work. Like I remember back in like the 90s, you'd have people like Harold Bloom saying like if your child is reading Harry Potter, then the child is not reading. Like he literally said this on
That's crazy.
one of these talk shows. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I mean,
so-
Harry Potter isn't good, but it's still. Hello?
Yeah.
yeah,
Dude,
no,
people
it's still,
shat on Lord of the
yeah.
Rings when it came out, so it's like, yeah, this stuff happens. It's usually retrospectively we begin to understand. Like, I understand why Lord of the Rings got shat on, because when I looked more into it, it was fantasy during a, I guess, post-war era, and it kind of felt like outdated at the time.
Hmm.
But you know, people found to enjoy it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm high at this point, and I just got my new record, so I might
Okay.
leave soon. But yeah.
All right, don't get stuck on the ceiling. Keep yourself on the ground. All right, let's continue.
Done, and the faster you get it done, the more valuable you will become as an individual. So discussions like this over the past few years have been described as a literary crisis or a reading crisis. And whilst it's true that basic reading skills are declining, we'll come back to that later, some of these discussions have taken place with people sort of misreading the data, which is why I'm wary of employing that term casually. A prime example of this was a trend a couple
I saw you unmute there, Brooks.
Job with the data right now. Great.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
a fantastic bang up job.
Just yeah.
Carry on.
She's being very careful by just reiterating the points made in the article.
And now that she's said that, my pedantry is going to be on goddamn overdrive.
Also, Brooks,
You say that in a fucking video. You say that in your video where you're like, everyone else has gotten everything wrong. If you get everything wrong in data, I'm going to get it right. Fuck you. I'm going to watch now. God damn it.
I did.
By the way,
do
I
have
also want to say that like
reader pulled up if you want to talk about that as well.
Yeah, so it's a thing I think I recommend people do. When I was doing my literacy series, a lot of people were asking like, well, wait, how can I tell? Like, because it's such a weird thing to think about that reading is not the same thing for everyone. Accelerator, great, simple way to find out actually what your kind of top end of decoding is. So you just hit begin. But it's a real easy website, accelerator.com. And you up and down arrows, set how many words per minute you're going to be reading at, and it will flash them in that exactly that time frame, and they're on screen. It won't work super well on screen because, well, maybe it will. I don't know. Try it. And it's just that. This is, again, not for like super critical reading, but it's kind of just to understand where are you at in terms of decoding. Are you able to decode? This is 300 words per minute is about average. Pushing it,
It's hard to do while
I get
someone's
to about,
talking, but I'm able to follow it at 300.
yeah.
With listening.
I found that I get to 900 to 1,000 and I start not being able to fully conceptualize every word. Some people get to way beyond that. The way decoding works fundamentally is having this understanding first and knowing where you sit so you can actually build out the skill set from there. I recommended this, and I think it's still a very useful thing.
Yeah. I think maybe we should. I think I'm gonna try it off screen or off stream sometime. Sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of years ago with the male reading crisis, which spread across social media, despite the data not actually suggesting that.
Oh, okay, she actually covered it. Yeah, so the male reading crisis is actually built off of some not great data from somewhat dubious sources. There's a good article on this. We've gone over this article, a good Vox article that actually goes over this. Maybe I'll send that in the Discord for people later if they're interested. Yeah, it might have been that one. Yeah, it was this article.
We talked about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've even covered it on screen. This is I'm glad she got it right.
That was the case. There's an article.
What articles? Ben really stopped reading. We took it.
Okay, never read The Guardian. Y'all, can we say something? I don't know if this is because like she's English. The Guardian is like bottom of the barrel when it comes to any kind of investigative reporting. Okay, just, and I know it's not always about the publication; it's about the person doing the publishing. But when it comes to just standards and like of quality, The Guardian is like pretty low. Like it's planking on the bottom. It's not that much higher than the Telegraph or the Daily Mail, frankly.
Did they do original reporting from this, or did they just copy the volume? We can take a look at that.
Article in The Guardian that debunked a particular one in Australia. It's very well done. I will link it down below. But let's look at the general population reading crisis. So the Pew Research Center, spanning from 2011 to 2021, came to the conclusion that Americans read, on average, 14 books per year, with a median of just 5 books per year. It also showed that university graduates are more likely to be book readers.
Wait, that's a...
What's up?
Does she have a source for that one?
Yep, that's this one.
Is that the Pew Research? Yeah. I think it's
yeah, those
one.
graphs look familiar.
3 in 10 Americans now read ebooks. Yo, can I say something real quick? Here's a petty thing. I always get annoyed.
Can you send me that link?
Yeah, let me make sure it's the right one first. Is there
Yeah, we'll throw it
Pew?
to like a football.
She showed something on screen a moment ago. If you just go, she had something on screen.
I think it was this study. It was this study. Yeah, it was this one.
Okay, I'll link this.
We're gonna punt it to you, Brooks. I hope you're good at catching.
There you go.
It's fine. Thank you.
I want to say one quick thing though about the ebook thing. You ever had a conversation with someone who's like, the only reason you read physical books instead of ebooks is because you want to be seen reading? I've had countless conversations with people like this, where the idea is that like if you're not reading on an ebook is because you're trying to be performative about your reading.
What? Dude, these...
Well, for them, it's like, why would you read on a physical book if you have an e-reader? And by the way, I do read a lot of stuff on my phone, like in terms of PDF, because it's like it's free to ascertain or to apprehend sometimes if you know the places. But
the person who says that is revealing that they are the ones who are in fact obsessed with performativity in a way that is self-reflexive.
True, and also I'll say this, like, that gets into an interesting conversation which we'll have later about like performing utility. I think a lot of culture today is about performing utility, which is going to I'll make a point about that later. But also one interesting thing about
being utilitarian.
Basically, yeah. I feel like by the way, if you're in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, you'll know what I mean immediately. But we have a bunch of sports utility vehicles, like Subaru Crosstreks and this whole thing that are supposed to be like rugged and like get you around places that people just don't drive except to like the grocery store. But and also the same people that like love utilitarian backpacks and like shoes and like cargo whatevers, and they just never actually do anything with them but just walk like to school. But that's a whole other thing. I feel like the thing about ebook reading for me that's so difficult is that you can actually, in a sense, click off your reading and go do something else very quickly, like just like that, right? Like your medium is polyfunctional, whereas with a book, you just have the book, like you're just stuck with the book. You can't drift off into doing other things. Some people can manage that. Some people actually can spend like 3 hours just in like their e-reader app, and that's fine. I'm definitely not one of those people. And so if I have a physical book, I'm just stuck with the text and I can't transcend its capacities in any particular way. I think that makes easier for me to lock in.
If you could go back 20 seconds in the other inner video, because there's a lot in this. This is interesting. She's terrible, which is not a surprise.
The Pew Research Center, spanning from 2011 to 2021, came to the conclusion that Americans read, on average, 14 books per year, with a median of just 5 books per year. It also...
Let's talk. So, they've done this survey often, and what they found is that the answers in 2021 were identical. So up, just above that pie chart.
Okay.
It's right there. These figures are identical to 2011. This is not that they had one like 10-year study, but the more important thing is the wording. It's like a 10-year study. They do this every year. It's identical. They found that. But the question they ask, according to Pew, is, have you read any book, whether completely or partway through? So if you start a book, that counts.
Oh. So I've read 50
So that's
books this year.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a hell of a number for me. It's an extremely lower bar than I think the others are using. Like the NEA study that she was also referencing requires that you actually have read the fucking book to have say you read the book. You know, why not?
Yeah, I was thinking that 14 seems crazy high. I struggle to get through 12 a year, and
Well, again,
I feel like I
it
read
has to
more
do
than
with
the average person.
it has to do with the other side, which is the 14 and the median of 5. Like that language means that it is actually, I mean, math. There are a handful of very hardcore fucking readers who are basically scaffolding the shit out of this.
Yep,
Yep.
1000%.
Same is
that's
true
true.
in the purchasing of book. Well,
Also, in a lot
I
of
am
reader
that
communities,
everyone in my sound of my voice is probably one of the fucking people who've done this.
Yep.
I also want to say, like, what a lot of book communities nowadays, they have what they call reader goals. And so you'll see a situation where, and by the way, you see this in a lot of what they call book tags, book tag videos. People have tag videos on the internet. And so what they'll do is they'll say, I want to read like 50 books this year. And so that's a challenge that they're going to meet if they want to feel good about themselves. And so they're going to read in such a way that meeting that basic numerical challenge will be most efficacious. And oftentimes that means reading novellas, reading manga, which usually has like less words, reading anything that can make the process faster in like a raw kind of sense. And it certainly won't mean sitting down and reading Tolstoy, specifically War and Peace or something. And so the quality of book has to be accounted for as well. If you're someone who their whole thing is reading philosophy, you're not going to be reading 50 philosophy books in a year unless you're like like an actual scholar. And even then, you're probably not going to finish most of them.
Or a YouTuber who has 3 essays to deliver a week.
Indeed. Shout out to my
floppy
boy.
hair.
I can't remember his real name. Joe Foley. Shout out to my boy Joe Foley. Fucking poser. But yeah, no, seriously. So there's a real quality thing to be considered here. Also, like reading 50 poetry works of poetry. Won't be the same thing.
Polyphonica has a great point. You need to listen to multiple audiobooks at once, one in each year.
You know, there are people, that's also another good point, actually. I know that there are people who their whole thing is getting, like, reading audiobooks or listening to audiobooks at 2 times speed while they're, like, going about their day so that they can just say that they, like, finish the book. That's, like, a whole thing as well.
I do that for school a lot.
But the other thing here, and it's, if she comes back on this and she goes, hey, the number in 15 years, basically, the number hasn't changed, which is not going to be her argument, right? Like, because that's what the Pew thing says, is like the numbers haven't changed. But the thing that happens here, and again, there's, the statistics are basically how you choosing how you want to lie. The NEA's study in 2022 said fewer than half of people, because their question was, did you read a book fully? ATUS, they did theirs, and it's declined from 2004 to 2023 from a third to 15%. And it was, did you read anything yesterday? Which is a very specific question.
Right.
These stats, you just basically go, hey, what's the argument I want to make? Oh, I'll take that stat. And that's what they run with. Because it works, because again, reading isn't a uniform thing. If reading was a state of yes or no, then all of these stats would fundamentally converge. If they were measuring the same thing, they would fundamentally converge. That's how science works. They diverge because it is actually a scale. Again, my argument, I said I was going to say every few minutes, the way each of these measurements and these instruments of science cuts the scale at different points. Oh, is it annual? Is it daily? Is it completion? Is it starting? Is it comprehension? The chaos of the measurement is not failure of surveys. The surveys are doing their fucking job. The failure is misunderstanding that we are not measuring a single thing. It is a scalar phenomenon.
Yeah, we're not getting at some essential quality via these measures.
Yeah.
We're measuring particulars.
Center spanning from 2011 to 2021 came to the conclusion that Americans read on average 14 books per year, with a median of just 5 books per year. It also showed that university graduates are more likely to be book readers than people without university degrees, and adults between the ages of 18 and 29 are more likely to read books than adults over the age of 65, interestingly enough.
That is interesting.
And yes, the statistics come up that women read more.
Wait. Didn't she start the video? I hadn't joined yet. Well, it was one of the first things she did was she used the NEA study. That's why you guys were looking at it, talking about how fewer than half of adults read a book in 2022. And then now she's saying that it's 3/4 of them.
Oh god.
So she's using statistic again. It's whatever she needs to make her argument emotionally at any given time without caring about the overall story she's actually telling. She doesn't give a fuck.
Clearance of her thesis, yeah. By the way, I want to say that what's interesting now is that she's going to fall back on more universal claims of like who's reading more or less, even though she herself has already tried to problematize this simple universal of reading. I mean, getting back to this idea,
she doesn't read clearly.
All right, Brooks. All right.
No, I mean, she clearly doesn't. She didn't even read the script. How do you not, like, she's saying the script, but she clearly didn't read it, because if she did, she'd notice that she's contradicting herself multiple times just in the first, 10 minutes of the video. That's because an AI wrote it.
I think that's...
I'm just going to say about everything I don't like now.
That's the Sunday maneuver. I mean, it's working out for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Than men, but it's only ever so slightly, and that gap has remained relatively consistent for decades. Because according to Pew's 2021 study, 73% of men said they've read a book in the past year.
Okay, well, she is at least making the point that the statistics have not changed from this one very much. That's something.
Compared to 78%.
Where's she getting the statistic from? Also the article, or?
Yeah, this is...
Same article, yeah.
But again, the NEA was where she opened, and she opened with one saying less than half. So
of women, and that was an increase from 2016 when only 68% of men said they read a book compared to 77% of women. So proportionately, the men are catching up much faster than women are engaging with reading.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe this is maybe there's a simple answer to what I'm going to say, and I'm going to look really stupid in 2 seconds. But also, is this just basically taking self-reporting? Is this just it seems like a lot of this is just like what do you say about yourself to a poll? And it's
it has to be.
It seems like if you have a change in cultural attitude, then that might also affect the data. Because one thing that's happened recently is that reading has become much more of a fashionable venture for people.
Yep.
So we've had more ads of, say, for example, fashionistas walking around with books. People like Kaya Gerber, who's a model, starting book clubs. This has become much more of a thing that is in vogue to do for people. Even nowadays, the idea of being a performative male who is trying to impress women is usually like reading something in public. And so if it's becoming much more in vogue to say about yourself that you are a reader, or at least much more shameful to say that you're not one of those people who fall under that category, then this should, I imagine, also affect rates of reporting, right? I imagine.
I would assume so, but I would also add that the way the studies are done and the way the questions are asked. This is why, I mentioned the other Adam, and then the NEA. The questions asked were really specific. It isn't like a general gut feeling. How many books have you read? Because that is exactly the kind of thing that a person would fudge based on shame. Hey, how many prostitutes have you been to in the last year? They're not going to overestimate, right? That kind of thing. It's, how many books have you read? If they're proud of it, if they're not, they'll over or underestimate based on mood. But did you read yesterday? That's like such a direct, concretized question. It's why those kinds of things I think tend to land stronger with me. And Addison did that very particularly, which I think is interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a link to the study where they talked about did you read the previous day? What was that study?
Yeah, I'll send it over.
Okay.
I'm assuming they asked
gender
multiple
reading-
questions.
I reference it in my I spent a lot of time on that literacy video. So much time on that shit.
It's really good.
Thank you. Like this stuff is like baked into my brain now, and I get like irrationally upset.
Yeah, I should rewatch that one. I really.
Gap is presented financially. There is a famous statistic, the 80-20 statistic, and it comes from 1997 when the New York Times speculated that women might be buying 80% of fiction books sold, which is really interesting. But they made that claim without actually citing a survey or where they got that number from. Despite them not having any evidence to back that claim up, that statistic has gone on 30 years and it has been recited by other articles and other online journalists, and it was even cited in a 2020 book called Why Women Read Fiction, The Story of Our Lives, by the University of Exeter professor Helen Taylor. A correspondent for Vox, Constance Grady, did a really great deep dive into this last year. Again, I will link all the articles I cite below. And the closest she found to that statistic was information given over by Nielsen Book Data that showed in 2017 UK women bought 63% of fiction, whilst men bought 37% of fiction. Now, there's two things to note here. Note 1, Nielsen Book Data only covers UK sales. And also, those numbers do not match the 80-20 split that people keep citing. But, at least according to UK buying habits, there was seemingly a distinction between genders regarding their buying patterns. But even then, Gray doesn't specify in her article that this data from Nielsen included ebooks or audiobook sales, and I'm assuming that data also does not include Amazon book sales, where men may be buying more ebooks and audiobooks over there, so they're not included in the data. But let's return to a more serious thing, which is the decline in reading skills. Now here the data doesn't look fantastic. So the OECD...
What is the structure of this essay?
That's so confusing.
We're just dropping that? I don't understand what the point of bringing
that feels
any of
like a
this up
different
was.
essay topic completely, right?
By the way,
I mean,
if you want a stat that if you want to do like the whole like gender war reading thing stat, you could point out that, and last time I checked, this is more or less the case, that the reason why it's still profitable to publish like more literary fiction, is because romance is actually the most bought fiction category, if I remember correctly. So out of all the fiction books that people buy nowadays, romance is like by far the predominant one, and it's like basically carrying the rest of fiction book sales in terms of profitability. And women are usually, as I understand it, the main readers of romance fiction.
Yeah. Men prefer erotica, which is funny because I thought that would also be another female-led category.
Interesting.
Erotic in the sense of like no character development, just like Billy and Mandy meet up and it's Pound Town.
I don't think you can write a book length that thing. Would be like there's plot, but also like a sex scene every few chapters.
You know, honestly, there's a lot of romance fiction that kind of goes in that direction. Like, I will say that
There have been people that have argued that it should be called erotica.
Oh yeah, but that
Because
gets into a whole
people tend
different
to say it's romance, or they say it's like smut or porn,
Uh-huh.
which are like negative terms or like denigrative terms, and we
Right,
could call
right,
it
right.
erotica and be more objective.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
Someone's mentioning 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Survey
I don't
of
think there's
adult
actually
skill.
that much sex in 50 Shades of Grey, right?
I feel like
I think there's quite a bit.
I feel like in
I haven't read it, and I'm going to be proud of that. And I'm not often proud I haven't read it, but that's going to be one where I'm like, hey guys, I did not. And that you're having this discussion lowers my opinion of you slightly.
My mom read it,
I
so
feel
I'm
like-
going off of secondhand
hold on,
knowledge.
I
Oh,
feel
that's
like
disgusting. That's the most edible shit I've heard, August. Come on.
Okay. Okay.
What was Imran gonna say?
well, I'm thinking about something like 120 Days and what we would call this, because it feels like a straight up smut book. But of course, it's not also like the most. You're not going to get turned on by it because it's just horrifying. But it is in terms of like the percentage of the book that's simply sexual acts versus non-sexual acts. It's definitely like more so sexual acts in that book, I would say. And it's literary fiction. Yeah.
There's around one sex scene every 100 pages, according to this listicle type article. Okay.
How far are we in this video? Okay. So she's switching topics on us.
Sorry, what was that?
She's switching topics on us, right? She's what is this topic?
Yes.
Go back like 20
Skills,
seconds.
reading skills.
Back to poor reading skills with no.
Okay.
This is just her saying, I'm smart because I know a study was bad, so you can trust my other statistics performatively.
Yeah.
And the most recent one was 2023. So for this survey, researchers arrange 160,000 adults in 31 countries and regions to sit short tests in numeracy, literacy, and problem solving. Now, while places like England actually moved up the past decade, places like America and Italy fall below the OECD average. But statistics in this area are sort of hard to 5,000.
Sorry, didn't. You flashed that on screen so quickly. I think that's one of the ones I read. When was this? She flashed it on for like 2 seconds.
Years skills read. Most of us have access to literature, and most of us are taught literacy skills.
Did anyone see where I skipped to?
So what happened? You got flashed? Are you okay? Are you traumatized? You said something flashed on the screen.
Oh yeah, the study. She put it on the screen for like a second and a half.
But rather to highlight, as I already noted, this cultured versus uncultured narrative.
I lost my place when I clicked the screen. Okay. She put it on screen so briefly I can't even find it in the timeline.
But rather to highlight, as I already hope I have done, how literacy and access to literature has been gate-kept from the masses for approximately 96% of the history of reading. We are readers because, by pure fluke, we landed within the 3.8% section of the world timeline where we are able to read. Most of us have access to literature, and most of us are taught literacy skills, which have been denied to the vast majority of people for over 5,000 years. For over 5,000 years, literacy skills were intentionally withheld as a tool of oppression and control. And with that...
It's a bit of an odd narrativizing, considering like the proliferation of books is only an incredibly recent thing if we're talking about human history. The Gutenberg press is what? 1650? Much earlier. 1440.
I mean, it's a generalization. I don't necessarily have the most massive problem with. I will say that some of those things where what it's going to look like is going to look very different between periods. But I agree in that like a lot of it is going to come down to technological non-viability of like, because at the end of the day, if you were to write like, I don't know, let's say we're in like the scriptorium in like 1433. If you wanted to copy down a book, you just have to do it by hand and bind the whole thing, and it was just so exorbitant, just a lot. You know what I mean? You ever have something custom made for you, even if it's like basically like producing a product that already has like all the designs and everything industrialized? Like it costs a lot of money, to engage in that process.
In mind, it becomes much clearer how it benefits people in power to publicly belittle and defund the humanities at universities by disregarding their importance in comparison to subjects such as science and engineering. Now, don't get me wrong; those subjects are deeply important, but they benefit
That's sort of a
society's
problem
capital.
with this, because I mean, like if you're scientifically literate, there's still ways in which you can't be manipulated by power, in which you're not being degraded by power. Like it's not all the humanities that make you like woke.
Yeah. It's
Wait, sorry. You said if you're scientific literate, there are ways in which you are not degraded by power. Is what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
this is a very
This is a bad video.
yeah. This is a very sloppy.
Do we skip stuff? Because it's not like she's making a leap. I don't remember.
I was actually thinking of ending off stream here. We've been going for about 3 hours.
Damn, already?
Yeah, I wanted to go shorter.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, man. Yo, for people who are interested in the next stream, I might do a So we're thinking about a couple things. We might do a stream on a crazy, wacky Republican institute that is the intellectual arm of the Trump administration. And if people are interested in that, we might end up doing that, an exploratory stream.
Yeah, we're going to be doing.
I like that. That sounds interesting.
The Claremont
I also might do a stream on losers and loserdom. By this, I mean a stream on our idea of a loser, what a loser consists of culturally today, and what that has to do with the structural aspect of our economy. In other words, of having an economy of fundamental class stratification, an economy that necessitates quote unquote losers. So that might also be a stream idea for those who are interested. Let me know if you have any other stream ideas. Let us know in the GSL Discord, because we're always looking for things to cover and talk about. So
yeah,
do let us know. Do hit us up. We are the mods, most of us. Richard's a mod. I'm a mod. I'm Imran, by the way. August is a mod. Sure Shot's a mod. Brooks is a hostage who we currently have.
I am. I've actually quit the server multiple times because of the mods.
Yeah, he keeps coming back because our milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
No, it's because Sunday won't talk to me unless I'm in the stupid fucking server.
Oh yeah, you need to call into the so that other people can also call in, so it's not just you like locked together.
Matt says, Old Republican Institute isn't crazy. Good point. Also, these are community events. So if you're someone who is listening to whatever we're talking about on any kind of subject, and you're like, wait, I have a take on this. I want to say something about this that's varied and somewhat interesting. Join the Discord if you're not in already, and let us know, and you can join the community space, and we can have you on VC.
Yeah, that's how my dumbass got on this chat.
South Rush is here, indeed.
Well, with that, thank you all for joining us. I think we'll end it off here.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Oof, I am.